The Buffalo Bills celebrated their topping out ceremony today for the new Highmark Stadium. They put the final steel beam in place. Bills owner Terry Pegula, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, and many more spoke at this historic event. For more on everything today, we have plenty up at our website, WGR550.com, and we'll also get more on today, and Sal Capaccio will join the show in just about an hour at 4 o'clock. Also up at our website, Howard Simon and Locked On Bills host Joe Marino continue their draft profiles. And next up, Iowa State cornerback Darian Porter Jr. Sabres were on the practice ice today. According to head coach Lindy Ruff, Josh Norris did skate on his own, while Tyson Kozak, he's week to week with a hip strain. The team also announced that forward Noah Ostlund has been recalled from Rochester and did skate today with the team. The Sabres are next in action tomorrow at home against Tampa. Alexander Ovechkin's march toward history continues tonight at 7 as he and Washington host Chicago. Ovechkin sits just 3 goals away from passing Wayne Gretzky. Doubleheader tonight for the Bisons. They are down in Memphis starting at 5:30. It's going to be over on the Bet 1520. The Mets host the Blue Jays. First pitch coming in just a few minutes. The Yankees, they're in Pittsburgh versus the Pirates just after 4. And then in college hoops, UB women host Troy tomorrow at 5 p.m. in the NIT Championship. And also starting tomorrow night, the Final Four in the men's bracket. First up, Florida versus Auburn at 6. Then Duke versus Houston following that. And then earlier today, it was announced that Duke freshman Cooper Flagg was named the AP Player of the Year. And coverage of the NCAA Championship Tournament on WGR and the Bet 1520 is brought to you by Window Nation. For all your window needs, visit windownation.com. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
My dad's not here right now. He's still at work. So I'm going to blast him.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I'm going to see if there's a clean version so that my parents and the people at my school will not get mad at me. We've got the spritzer filled with water just in case if stuff gets too fire. I'm going to set up the speaker and I'm going to listen to
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I think this is the best
Mike Schopp
feature that I've heard in a long time. I think his flow is really good in it, and I like his aggressiveness on it, and
the Bulldog.
Put not enough effort in it. I think overall his flow was good, but I don't like that mumble rapping. That was my review of
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Didn't need the spritzer. Wasn't fire enough. No spritzer for you. No spritzer.
Hi there, nice little sunny Friday. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, Sam Panayotovich, Sal Capaccio, Paul Hamilton, maybe even Brian Koziol. We're kind of loaded up here today. It's opening day for a few different, of course they're different, right?
Home openers.
I don't need the word different. Opening day, home opener for several major league teams, including the Mets, who we have on now, the Red Sox, your favorite team, the Cubs. It just, thought of it watching the Cubs in the first inning. It is pretty amazing that in 2025, a major league team has a brick wall for the outfield. Like a literal brick wall. Did the Bills consider that for the new stadium?
I don't know.
You don't have to run into it.
Yeah, there is at least some ivy. I mean, is that still? Oh, it's not really in season
it's
right
not,
now. Is
no,
it? Right?
it's just.
Yeah.
It looks like vines, just grass almost at this point.
Yeah,
but there's a brick wall behind. There is a brick wall there.
Yeah,
that you can run into. That's charming.
Are we sure it's still really bricks?
No, on the sides it's padded.
Because I feel like that could be like faux padding made to look like bricks. I feel like that's out there. If it's not, it should be. I remember years and years ago going to Camden Yards, like maybe late 90s, going to Camden Yards with a buddy for a weekend. The station got me set up because I did a thing where I lived on a billboard for a week to raise money for a slain Buffalo police officer. And like the company, they're like, that was a great job by you, great promotion, something good for the community, what would you like to do? And I'm like, well, what are my options? We've got stations here and here and here. Is there anything, travel-wise? I'm like, I'll go to Baltimore. Sure. So 2 tickets for 3 games. It was great. And one of the games, we were right on the, right front row. And the warning track was fake. It wasn't real dirt.
Is that right?
Yeah. I was like, well, this is shattering. I need this to be dirt. I don't know if
It
that
looks like dirt.
Yeah, I don't know if that's changed since then, but it was like this. It was weird to me. Like, it didn't even look. The reason I'm even hesitating about, I remember having the thought that's not real dirt. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look safe really to like run on. I don't know. It looks slippery. Anyway,
like a track or something.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's what it was. Just but made to look like the same color as what the warning track dirt is. And that's the kind of thing that'll make you question: is anything real that I'm watching on TV?
Well,
what is happening here? So. I've never been to Wrigley Field, so I've never been out to the bleachers, or I've never sat where I'm staring at the outfield walls there, and now I'm wondering if maybe they're fake. It's padded.
Maybe the whole thing is fake. Maybe it's not even a real place.
Yeah. Maybe they just have the bricks superimposed on there like the hockey ads.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a brick wall. We watched the guy run into it a few minutes ago, and you couldn't really see the wall. You just see the vines. Yeah. But I think it's a brick wall. Maybe I should have looked it up.
I think you're probably right. When you said that, it triggered this memory of this like sort of pebble, whatever. I don't even know what that warning track was in Baltimore at the time. It was just
a laminate, some sort of laminate floor.
Weird, right? I'm like, what are we doing here?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it is pretty cool right now. Like we a few years ago, it wasn't a draft, but we with Joe with us ranked the top 10 sports days. Didn't we? Remember that?
Yeah.
I don't know the results of that, but we all had different lists. And, I mean, 4 of most fans, I want to say, top 10, if you're just sort of like, these aren't necessarily my favorite, but like the best, the biggest, are right here. Like it's the first day of the NCAAs. The Final Four is tomorrow. It's opening day in baseball, which is pretty cool. I mean, I don't think you have to be a serious baseball fan to like,
I think if you have a baseball team in your town, I think whether you care a lot about it or not, it's still a cool day.
It's the best day of the season.
If you're a sports fan, if you're even a casual sports fan, the Cubs are opening today. Cool. You're going to go down there. That vibe I think would be there if you like sports even a little.
It's the best day of the season, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you have like 4th of July or Memorial Day or certain holidays.
Especially if
Harry Potter Day.
I think especially if you don't think your team's any good. If you think your team's going to be good, then you got 162 of these are, well, whatever. These are home openers, so they've already played a handful of games. But you get the point. You got a long way to go. And if you think your team's going to be good, you probably are looking forward to lots of highlights through the spring and summer and into the fall. But if you think your team is, then opening day, but okay, let's get off to a good start here. Anything can happen. You're right. Get 10 games in, and I'm 7-3. Like, hey, maybe I'm live.
I don't know if this is exactly true for the Bills. I think it probably is for Bills fans. I know with the Sabres over the years when I was doing season tickets, the opener was the best. It was the game we kind of all wanted. When we would draft those tickets, I'd want to, know if other people in front of me in the draft order, like maybe they couldn't go to the opener. That was always the game I wanted. Mm-hmm. It would be like the opener, and then depending on if it's your cup of tea, the Leafs. Those were the big ones. So I think it's definitely true of baseball. It was how I felt with the Sabres. I think it's the best night of the year. Part of it is like season ticket holder. You see your friends again. Like it's your friends maybe that you go to games with, but it's also the people around you.
Yeah.
And for about 5 years, that was a special aspect of it. I mean, it changes over time.
And I definitely think that is true for football in tenfold, 100-fold, because it's not just the people you sit with, obviously, at football. There's a whole different element through the hours leading up to the game, and that's the same kind of thing. Like, you're not seated together, but, you park in the same spot if you have that kind of connection, or I don't want to say luxury, but you just, people have their spots. And so it's totally conceivable to me you're going to go from January until September without maybe even having any contact with any of those people, depending on what your relationship is like. But then, look, they're here. This is probably especially true in the camper lot, because those are people that maybe are traveling in some cases, although not always. Jeremy White and Molly have a trailer, and they live in North Buffalo, but they go out there with a camper for the home games. So I think that adds to the allure of the opener in a way, because it's sort of homecoming. You get back together with people. I love sort of getting lost in when I have the time to really sit with it and think about it, because I have so much other stuff going on. But the things that sort of trigger the good feelings and the memories, like what is it about opening day in baseball? What is it about the first Bills game, the home opener for the Sabres, like you're saying, like these things that trip wires for us that just make us want to be there? They are just one game. When they're over, all right, well, better luck tomorrow if it doesn't go well. At least the season's just beginning. There's still room for optimism. I love sort of the romance of all that, it's something that I was feeling this week, and at this time of the year, I really do start to feel it when it's light out longer, and you've got hockey games that matter in the standings, and it's just been so long since we've had that it makes me almost belligerently angry that we don't get to enjoy that. It's just been taken from us. Taken from us sounds a little harsh, probably, but
it should be a pretty cool weekend, and it's just a weekend.
Yeah, right.
This way.
Yeah.
Well, I think the point you were saying, about baseball, that opening day is especially the best if your team is bad. Like, you're tied for first, when you walk in for the opener. And I think football, for me, why football is different is that there are so many fewer games. And with that point, especially if you're good, like last year the Bills opened with Arizona, you'd better win.
Yep.
The first hockey game, the first baseball game, it's a nice change from how it feels later in the season if you're a serious fan, because really it's like you're just kind of there for the occasion. It's not so important.
Right.
The Sabres hoisted the President's Trophy banner in September or October of 2007, and that was a tremendous night and everything like that, although they had guys, Drury and Briere left, and so it was a little bittersweet. But still, you could celebrate a great season that had just happened. They lost to the Islanders that night, and all right, well, it's one game.
Right, yeah. You're right. The occasion is way more important than the result in a situation like that, where you've got 82 or 100, or 81 more or 161 more or whatever this is, 154 more, whatever for the Mets today. With these home openers have already played 6 games or whatever on the road or more. Yeah, it is. It's the festivity is what it is. It's it's not a parade, but it's sort of the same vibe. Like, hey, we're all here. Hey, this is cool. Yeah, we got a team.
I think the Bills thing with them being good, it's really sort of maybe down the middle for all that stuff. The getting back together with people and the community aspect of it, but also okay, well, think about how last year went. They did beat Arizona.
Yeah, there's a different kind of pressure there. I think
they had to. To be the 1 seed, to have a chance at it, they kind of had to win that game. So that's fine. It's just a difference. Mm-hmm. I think it's a different feeling for football in that way.
Yeah, it's a lot less relaxed. I think at least I
it's important to win.
Yeah,
more so than it would be for any one baseball game.
Right.
So you had, like I mentioned, the start of the tournament. Everybody loves that first day of the tournament. The Masters is next week. The Masters made that list for us.
Sure.
The top 10
Yep.
days, whatever day it was. Sunday?
Sunday, maybe, yeah.
Masters Sunday?
Yeah.
And then the draft.
Yeah. The draft was...
Your number one was the draft.
Thank you. Yeah, for remembering that. I was feeling like I was going to need to remind you, because it surprised me... If that might sound weird. It's my opinion. You think I would have a handle on that going into it, but as the thing unfolded, I ended up feeling like, this day, I used to hate that day. I would say partially that was somewhat work-related, because we'd be in here for 6 or 7 hours or something, trying to not sound like I'm reading out of the Our Lads book or something. Oh my God, what am I doing? This is not my wheelhouse here. I like football, I like college football, I know some of these players, but no, I'm not here to tell you about the tackle that the Browns just took with pick 28. I don't know anything about him. And so that made me uncomfortable. Once we got clear of that, I realized I love the draft. Like, no matter what I was doing, when it was still, not on Thursday or Friday, and just on Saturday, noon. It was often a nice day, and it's the time of the year, spring, right? Outside, pull the storm windows off and clean the inside windows and put the storms back on and whatever. And I would always end up gravitating back to the TV. It could be 80 and sunny, and I'm like, I'm just okay. Dallas is on the clock. Like, I was gripped by it, and now I love it even more. Like, I just love the whole thing, the families, just all of it. And so, yeah, when we got around to doing that, I ended up with the draft as my favorite day, and I'm like, boy, me 10 years ago, me 5 years ago would have thought, what are you hammered? What are you talking about? But I love the draft now.
I like it. I don't love it like that. I don't get sentimental about a lot of that stuff quite to the same extent. The hugs bother me. But
I can make fun of the hugs with
Goodell
hugs.
Sure,
yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
Those years, like the long days, some of those memories are Saturdays, like the draft would. Mm-hmm. Now we have Saturday as day 3, but remember when the Bills drafted Willis McGahee? Or the day they had the Flyers here in the playoffs, the 8-0 clinching of that series in 2001 against Philadelphia. That's the first round of the NFL draft happening at the same time. If that matters. I like it. I picked, for what it's worth, the week 1 in the NFL as my favorite day. I am an avid fantasy player, and I think what I would say I'd like most about this draft coming up, or most drafts, is just like where guys fall. By then, even by now, I feel like I know enough about 20 or 30 different skill position players, at least, and finding out, all right, what's the landing spot and what does it mean? Is this a situation? Is Ashton Genty goes to the Raiders, like, that's perfect because nobody else is really there. Like, it's all his. If he goes, probably it's all his. And so, you sort of analyze that. If he goes to the Bears, which is another popular mock spot for Genty, the running back from Boise State, well, maybe, probably, if you were going to pick him 10 overall, you would think so. But they do have Swift and even Roshan Johnson. Like, there might be, they might sort of slow play that. And every receiver, every running back, really the whole way, by late Saturday, it doesn't really matter that much. But certainly the first day, the second day, it does. So I like it for that. Saying that, this year, I think this year has a chance to be kind of a letdown, the draft. Thinking of it from fantasy, thinking of it from the Bills' point of view. I mean, this is just one way of looking at it. They'll get somebody in the first round, probably. Last year they traded out, but you know what I mean. And it'll maybe be a defensive tackle or a cornerback. And like, okay, we can say what we'll say. Mm-hmm. But without the skill position piece, the fantasy piece, it's not as intense for me. And I think the draft mostly will have that kind of vibe. Like, there are maybe 3 running backs that go in the first round. Maybe it's 4 receivers. Maybe it's 2 quarterbacks. Maybe it's 2 tight ends or 1. That's 10-ish out of 32. And so I think a lot. I mean, you can some people will who cares if it's a wide receiver or a linebacker, or an offensive guard or something. There are those fans who are, what's the difference? But for me, I think most of the middle of the draft will just kind of be there.
Yeah, I feel that. And I don't think that has to. I mean, it certainly does pertain to someone who's really into fantasy like yourself, but I'm not at all, and I feel that point. Like, the skill positions are more fun to talk about. They're more fun to the highlights are more fun to watch, usually, right? Like, I will find myself getting much more lost in tape of some tight end or a wide receiver or even a running back than I will a safety or a corner. And I say that I don't stop and look at those or even go looking for them myself if it's someone that I think we're going to be talking about or I'm interested in just in general. But the skill guys, they're the guys that have the ball. That's it. I mean, and what do you do when you sit down to watch football? I mean, some people have the capability. I know. I know some of them to watch the other things going on. But, most of us just go, where's the ball? who's got the ball, where's the ball going, where's it going, like that's it. So when there aren't marquee skill guys there, 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks to debate, and same with receiver and whatever. We're used to not having running backs. Maybe there'll be. Could there be more running backs taken than receivers? I don't know. I guess it depends on how you classify Travis Hunter. But still, even probably not. But
probably not. But it could be the same. There could be 3 of each.
Yeah, and that's just a big departure from years where we've had these loaded receiver classes and a handful of quarterbacks that you could think were possibly going to be chosen early. The best I can do beyond the top 2 guys is maybe someone will take a flyer on Jackson Dart. I really would be stunned if I came anywhere close to the first round on Milroe. My bet with you is top 16. That feels dead to me. But nobody thought Penix was going 8 last year, so maybe somebody will surprise us in that way, and that'll give the draft a little juice if that happens. But yeah, I think there's probably going to be a lot of unsexy picks.
Yeah.
I was listening to Greg Cosell with Chris and Steve on the way in on One Bills Live, and Greg made that point that this first round, you're very likely going to see maybe more than you usually see. Guys picked in the 20s, say, who consensus on was they're in the 40s or 50s. And, by virtue of that, it's not like a linear trade, but guys that had, we thought, mock drafters thought, whatever, a lot of analysts thought guys would go in the middle or late first round, won't go until the second round. Or who knows, maybe even later. And that, I think, that uncertainty is due to how we've been reading and hearing about this draft the entire time. There just isn't a lot of blue chip, and there's a lot of it's kind of a plateau from 10, maybe even earlier than that, into 40 or 50, yeah. Which that should produce surprises.
That's
and
right.
Maybe that'll be interesting. Maybe Mel Kiper will I can't believe they picked that guy. And maybe Mel's best available. Maybe there'll be a guy that's on Mel's best available all night Thursday night. It's just he's there, and teams are just going a different direction.
Right. I do think the first 4 picks, top 3, 4, are really interesting to see what happens. And I hope that it isn't known by that night. I think Tennessee is playing the game where probably they'll pick Cam Ward, but they're still talking like they don't know and hoping maybe, not that they would even necessarily take it, but that they get some dream offer and move. But they want you to think that they're still working that out and they're still available. But, that's probably what happens there. They need a quarterback, so why not take the consensus best? That could look really bad for a long time if they don't, and he's good. Then you have the Browns and the Giants, who are both really interesting teams. I hope for the sake of the draft and the conversation that Sanders seems plausible enough of an idea as we go for the next couple of weeks here at 2 or 3. You have people who think the Giants, even though they signed Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson, still would do that. I have a tough time believing that, but they don't have a future guy at all. So they could. The Browns could. If they don't, I don't know. If the Browns pick Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, then I think I would expect them to pick one with their next pick, trade up or beginning of the second round. But it would really be a judgment on Sanders if they don't do that. And then by the time you get to New England, Jacksonville, we might be looking at tackle, defensive line, and then we're at that point. And where Genty goes will be interesting. But, last year...
How soon the first receiver goes, outside of Travis Hunter again.
Right.
Keep saying that disclaimer.
But again, last year, to the point, what did I say, 10 out of 10 picks in the first round maybe will be quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Last year, we did this with Matt Harmon yesterday. Out of 34 picks, including Keon Coleman and McConkey, you had 9 receivers, 6 quarterbacks in the top 12, no running backs in this group last year. Jonathan Brooks was the first, and he went after 34. He went a mid-second or whatever. Then, and Bowers. So half.
Right.
Basically half of your first round was this. So it does make a difference for I think probably most fans. You can bet the draft. The props are out on a few different sites. We can bring that up with our guest after the break, Sam Panayotovich from Bet Sweats, Odyssey Betting Insider. Sal will join us at 4. He was out at that ceremony today where it made it seem like the stadium was done. I've never heard of a thing called a topping out ceremony. I love that they even built a stage with the words "topping out ceremony" in all caps. That's a thing. Maybe if I knew construction, I would know.
Yeah, right. I think that's
topping out ceremony.
I think that's what's necessary to know about that.
It couldn't just be a thing. It had to be called something. But we'll talk to Sal about that and more. Paul Hamilton as well. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, back with Sammy P. after this on WGR.
not a class for, like you say, blue chip talent, peak talent. Like I talked about the edge rushers. It's not a class for 10 plus, 12 plus sack guys. Wide receiver class. This is not a class for like 100 catches, over 1,000 yards every season. Like 5 guys go in the first round. But you start looking at some of these names, some of these big guys who can play in the slot, and some of these small guys who can stretch the field. And you're like, man, if you can't find useful players out of this, you ain't looking.
Benjamin Solak now with ESPN on One Bills Live, maybe yesterday. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Thanks for being with us. Sal Capaccio will join us later. Paul Hamilton as well. And right now on the West Her Hotline is Sam Panayotovich, the host of Bet Sweats. And he is an Odyssey sports betting insider, as you know. Insider Calls presented by BetMGM. Check out the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. Be sure to catch Bet Sweats 9 to noon weekday mornings on the newly rebranded BetMGM network, on the Odyssey app, and on the Bet 1520.
I was just thrown off for a second, Sam. We're streaming this, right? YouTube and the Twitch, where all the kids are. And there was just a shot of Mike that I had never seen. I know that there's a camera over in the corner, but I just saw you just now. That whole intro was you with that shot. And it's back again. Thanks, G. That threw me off. I hadn't really seen you like that before.
Well,
it's like you're on Skycam or something.
I love it. Love being able to come up with new content after all these years. How are you, Sam?
I'm good, Mike. It's great to hear that Bulldog made it back in one piece from vacation.
Yes.
Barely, but I did, yes.
Yes. We have...
barely made it back in one piece.
He sounds better than ever. We've got a lot to go over.
I tried to drink all the rum in Puerto Rico. I gave it my best.
You a rum guy at all, Sam?
I can do whatever you want, except for Southern Comfort. No more Southern Comfort ever again.
I am not. So Mike used to have a rum party at the first house he and his wife lived in. Yes, we've been together long enough that we've had, he's had more than one house in our relationship. And I never was a big rum guy, but then I started going on these vacations where there's a blender and tropical fruit available, and I just became blender rum drink guy. And I relish the opportunity. In fact, 2 nights or so before we left, my wife and I were sitting together, and I just out of nowhere said, rum drinks.
It's just a lot of work.
I'm happy to do the work.
It's just a little bit too much work.
There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I took the recipe straight from Always Sunny, one of my favorite shows, when Danny DeVito makes the rum ham, right? Well, his idea of a rum ham is to just take the ham and drop it in a pool of rum.
Right. It's not complicated.
You can't do that. So what I do every Easter, I am not kidding. I will happily post a picture when we're done talking here and tag you guys both in it. I do a rum ham every Easter. It is brown sugar, butter, and Myers rum, the dark rum. Yep. And you let that sit for about 20 minutes, and then you pour it over the ham, throw it in for about 4 hours. It is the best ham you will ever have, and I would highly suggest, maybe not at Easter, maybe try it out before Easter, but I do it every Easter now. My mom's always like, "Are we having rum ham?" I'm like, "Yes, Mom, relax."
Rum ham.
I am so happy to learn of this.
Writing it down.
We had the Danny DeVito rum ham. We had that in an open at some point on this show.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah,
we did
the rum ham.
Sam Panayotovich, noted Rockies fader or hater, if you prefer. The Rockies are 1-5, but Sam, their starters' ERA so far is 1.35. The Rockies, who never get pitching, they're on the road, but still, they never get pitching. They get 1.35 ERA from their starters through the first week, and they're 1-5.
I would bet that does not last. I can only imagine how much worse it's going to get when they start trading guys off, because this is a team a lot like the White Sox last year that's going to the bottom. There's no hope. There's no reason to keep anybody good. So if guys like Kyle Freeland, for example, have a solid April and May, they're going to trade them June or July. They're going to be getting rid of anybody that has a pulse. And with an ERA of 1.35, they are still 1-5. They can't score. They have 11 runs in 6 games. And I know Sneaky Joe's really happy right now because he's got, under 62.5 on the season?
I don't know what the number ultimately was. You mentioned it. It might have been 60.5 when you mentioned it. Somewhere in there.
They're not getting there either. It doesn't matter. This is probably the worst team in baseball. The Pirates are 2-5. They're better than that. The Braves are better than 0-7. The AL Centrals, every team's going to have around like 65, 70 wins. But this team, the Rockies, and think about this. The Dodgers and the Padres are 15-0 combined. The Giants are 5-1. The D-backs are 4-3. Where do the wins come in the division for Colorado? I don't know.
Right. Cincinnati has managed to lose 1-0 3 days in a row. That's pretty good. You don't see that a lot.
Only to be outdone by the Marlins winning their first 3 games against Pittsburgh in walk-off fashion. The Pirates were 0-3 with 3 walk-off losses.
Bad team staying bad. Sam Panayotovich on the West Her Hotline. The Final Four this weekend. I'm getting the sense here, Sam, that everybody bet Duke. I mean, you were all about Duke to the Final Four, and it was close to even money. That made it kind of easily. What's on the line? You often bring up the sports books. Like, are they really at risk here because of Duke?
Well, they tend to get a little hyperbolic. We had Patrick Everson on our show today, who's a very big Vegas reporter, and he used the quote, if we can get Duke out, we can take off the oxygen mask. Yeah. That's from one of the sportsbook directors. Now, I don't really believe that, but you have 4 the favorites in the Final Four. The liability isn't really all that big on a lot of these teams. I think the problem with that Duke quote, not the problem, but the truth behind it, is that you had people like me talking about Duke for the last 3 months. And, like, people watch Duke in the tournament and go, oh, yeah, Duke's good, and they bet Duke. So I think it's a compilation of people that bet it in January and February, but also people in March and into this tournament that just kept adding on at, 4-1, 3-1, 2-1, and now at one book they're -110. I'm looking at BetMGM right now, still -110, and it's very funny. Guys will lay -110 every Sunday in the NFL, but I say, hey, you should bet Duke -110. I don't know. Okay, all right. So we pick and choose our -110. Let me throw this at you guys, since you can no longer bet Duke at a plus price. What about Duke and Scotty Scheffler to win the Masters at 10-1?
This is your kind of thing.
This is absolutely my
combining
kind of thing.
Sports.
Yes, I'm totally here for that. Yes.
Okay, so if it's not Scheffler, somebody doesn't like Scheffler. How about Rory? If you do Duke and Rory, it's 14. If you do Duke and Rahm, it's 31. If you do Duke and Luda Oberg, it's 35-1.
What are those guys, or just a couple of them on their own?
So the current field right now, Scheffler's just shy of 5-1. Okay. Rory's about 7. Morikawa 14. Rahm and Oberg are 16.
So you're doubling.
Shambo 18.
You're doubling.
Yeah, basically.
The bet, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said the first college basketball I heard from you this year was just Duke and Auburn. Don't even worry about anything else. Duke and Auburn. Too bad you got them on the same side. I mean, I don't know if you had futures bets on both teams. Better off if Auburn's on the other side, but still good.
Well, no, Auburn plays Florida on the left side, and then Duke's got Houston.
Oh, I'm wrong anyway. So good then. Sorry, I was thinking that it was.
No, it's fine. I'm actually glad you made this colossal mistake. I have heard so much Florida the last 2-3 weeks that it's jumped the shark, guys, because it really was for 5 months. It was Duke, Auburn, then everybody else, and now Florida's a 2.5, 3-point favorite on Auburn, and I'm just not there. The status of Janai Broom's a big deal. He's their best player. He left the game in the Elite Eight and then had to come back. He looked a little off. They say he's going to go, but I think this should be a pick 'em. Now, look, it's not like me to make a huge bet in the Final Four because these are very tight lines, and I don't really have that much of an edge. But I don't think Florida should be 2.5, 3 points better than Auburn. So piggybacking off what you said, Duke and Auburn, well, now it's Duke and Florida in the eyes of everybody, and I'm just not there from a number standpoint.
Yeah. How good should this weekend be? And does the tournament need, does it need redemption? The whole thing unfolded while I was in Puerto Rico, so I'm not going to BS you. I didn't watch a second of it. But with all the favorites, all the 1 seeds, everything, it feels like it was in the first couple days I was keeping track of it while I was traveling on Friday. And it just, there wasn't the upsets and the buzzer beaters. It just felt like a kind of and I wonder if you feel like the tournament needs the juice of a really dynamite, close weekend here.
I don't know if it needs the juice, and I apologize. I'm in the middle of the Reagan Airport right now. In case you're wondering, the flight to Seattle's been delayed, in case you guys are wondering. Yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, well, I'm not on it, so I don't care. The last time and the only other time we had 4 number ones was 2008. That was Kansas, Carolina, Memphis, and UCLA. And both Final Four games were blowouts. So you would think having 4 number ones is going to be great basketball, and I hope we get that. But it doesn't mean that we will. My thing is I don't think anybody can touch Duke. And that's not a hot take coming from me. As you guys know, I've been talking about it for months.
Yeah.
Houston has elite defense. But as we've seen all year in all tournament, elite offense beats elite defense. And Duke they have 3 top 10 picks, along with the number 1 pick, Cooper Flagg. So I think Duke's going to win and maybe pull away in the second half. Florida-Auburn should be a good game. We did see that earlier this year in SEC play. Yeah. I think that's going to be the game of the day. And then, Monday you get Duke, Florida, or Duke, Auburn. Now watch Houston win because I've been throwing shade at them all segment. I think it's going to be the highest basketball level we've seen all season because these are the 4 best teams, quite literally.
Yeah,
Good ball, but I don't know that the games are going to be close, Bulldog.
Yeah, I was waiting to say here, I don't know how much you keep track of the Ken Pom efficiency ratings. It's not something that I really invest a lot of time in at all, but I'm reading from Jay Billis at ESPN.com earlier today that these are the 4 best teams in that ranking, and not only that, they are in the top 10 all time since these rankings started being made available, which goes back to 1997. Duke is 2 all time, Houston 6, Florida 8, Auburn number 10. That is pretty impressive.
It very much is. You know what's ironic, though, about that list? That 98-99 Duke team on top, the best team ever or so, they lost in the championship to UConn. That was the Rip Hamilton year at UConn. So the truth is, in every college basketball game and in any NFL playoff game, you have 1 bad period, 1 bad quarter, 1 bad half. Sometimes that's enough to hold you back. I do think Duke's going to win it all, but I did have to laugh when I saw that list that the best team ever in the history of Ken Pom didn't even win the championship.
Best NFL team ever may be the Patriots in 2007, who lost. I don't know. That's part of sports, as you're saying. Sam, what about the NFL draft? Are you there yet?
Yeah, I'm here. I have Colston Loveland. I bet him under 19.5. He's a tight end from Michigan. Mm-hmm. I look at this number too, guys. It's so wild because we talked about Shedeur Sanders like a month ago. And I remember saying, give me 4.5 and I'll go over, to go 5th or higher. They put a number up, one of these books, 8.5. And I don't even know what to do with 8.5. Do you?
Wow. Well,
if it was when we first talked about it, I would say push it to go. I would go over. But now it seems to me it certainly sounds more like he could go in the top 5.
I keep reading mocks with him 3rd, and I don't. If I was picking 3rd, I'm not a GM. I only play one on this segment from time to time. I would not take him 3rd. He's just not. He's not ready. And you're going to throw him into a spot and play right away, and I just think that's a disaster waiting to happen. But 8.5 sort of makes me do a double take. I don't know what to do with 8.5. And if you want to bet Cam Ward now to go first, all you got to do is late. Yeah, 3,000 to win 100.
Yeah. Well, the Giants could take Sanders, and they've got 2 guys that'll be ahead of them. They gave Winston some money, and they also signed Russell Wilson. So we talked about that already earlier today. I'm not sure if it makes sense, but they could still do it, and that's a spot where he would have all the time he needs, I would think, to develop.
I have to ask you guys, what do the Bills do? Because we do have a market on what position the Bills do with the first pick that they have. What do you guys think?
There's corner and there's defensive tackle, and I'm not sure there's anything else.
Okay, well, that's the odds. D-line is 140, cornerback is 260, and then safety's 4-1.
Corner would be, if I were to bet that and pick one, it would be corner. And the Giants, it's just such bad management if they do that. Why do they even need Winston? And Sanders would still be the same top 5 pick on a rookie deal, no matter how many other quarterbacks they have on the team. 8.5 is because New Orleans is at 9. And New Orleans is considered like a possibility for him. I think it's the kind of draft maybe, though, Sam, where teams move up like all the time because they've got their preference 2-3 picks away. And, this can always happen. But it's considered so flat from 8 or 10 or so all the way down into the second round that just go up for the position, the player you want, and not worry about it. With all the comp picks now, too, teams can throw around fourths and fifths. I could see, even if it's the Saints, who always are trading their picks, sitting there at 9, wanting Sanders and moving up a couple spots to get him and finding a team that would be fine with that.
I think one of those guys, not to go back to Colston Loveland, but I think he's very live to go to the Colts at 14. And if he makes it past 14, you could see a team, trade up and take him. I mean, pass-catching tight ends are such a big deal now. The guys in Buffalo, guys like Kelsey, guys like that, just like pass-catching tight ends are a big deal. So I do like that number. I'm laughing at this. The Bills to take a quarterback with their first pick is 400 to 1. That's very funny.
Probably bad bet. How about Loveland for first tight end? That could be a good price.
It's a good price, but I don't think he's going to go before Tyler Warren from Penn State. That's the only problem. His number, just for context, is 9.5. So he's 9.5. Loveland's 19.5. The math tells you it's probably not a winner.
I would definitely bet the over on Warren. I like Loveland as first tight end. I'd bet 9.5. I mean, what is it? Chicago at 10. Where are the Jets? The Jets are in that 8 range, whatever, the 6, whatever it is. I don't know. Kincaid, who was the first tight end picked 2 years ago, was not supposed to be. It was supposed to be Michael Mayer.
Right.
And
the other Raiders tight end.
Yeah, the first Raiders tight end. And Kincaid didn't work out at the combine, but he still got there. So I think it's early. I heard Evan Silva say this on his Establish the Run podcast this week, and it makes sense to me that it's still early enough where you'd want to bet long shots because it's going to change a lot in the next couple of weeks. So this is going to sound like it's changing a lot. So, all right. I'm excited to do it. I'm in the process of downloading directions to a place where I can. It's called Pennsylvania, where I can do. Maybe you've heard of it, where you can actually make these kind of bets. So I'm excited about that. Just need a window.
Okay. Well, while you get the directions to Pennsylvania, I'm going to work on finding the best picture I can of the rum ham and slap it on X for you guys.
The rum ham.
I need to see rum ham. Although I don't know, you painted a pretty graphic picture already with your words, Sam. You're quite the artist. So I want to see the picture, but I think I got it. I think it's going to be a ham soaking in rum.
Careful out there.
I put the pineapple in there, too, the pineapple chunks at the bottom.
Don't forget the pineapple, right.
Careful out there. Rafael Devers is up to batting 107.
Oh, baby. Him and Trout are at a race to the bottom. They're both really bad right now.
Well, I assume you're catching a flight, so have a good trip.
No, I landed. I was hanging out for you guys,
okay.
and now I'm off to see the Wizard.
All right. Thanks, Sam. Talk to you next week.
All right, guys. See ya.
Sam Panayotovich, Bet Sweats, weekday mornings on the Bet 1520 and the Odyssey app. Dylan Cruz, the prospect, one of the considered top prospects in baseball on the Nationals. I saw today 0-4-18 with 10 Ks is how his career is starting. That's not great. Cam Smith, another top prospect in Houston. I know Devers and Trout are not prospects, but Cam Smith in Houston off to a slow start. You see some of these young guys make the team. Always like when it happens. They don't get sent down even though they seem like they obviously deserve it because of the service time stuff. But, it doesn't have to be that they can just walk in the cold sometimes and just wreck Major League pitching. That's doing a lot. All right, Sal coming up at 4. We will talk about the stadium ceremony today. The off-season program dates came out yesterday. And more Bills topics, always some draft in there with Sal as well. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. The Sabres play tomorrow night and Sunday night, 7 and then 6 for their games Saturday and Sunday against Tampa and Boston, both at home.
Thank you. Right, sorry.
All right. Ovechkin tonight.
You had it. I didn't need to. Yeah, right, hosting Chicago?
Hosting Chicago.
And Gretzky is on his way. Like he's going to be there from now until whenever the record falls.
2 to tie, 3 to win. And NHL Network, I think, for this game tonight.
Oh, great. Where's Travis Yost with nobody will be able to watch it?
Now, why would that be?
I think it's not as readily available. We're lucky we have it on our streaming service of choice, but I don't think it's as widely distributed as some other channels may be. So Travis is always there when there's if there's a game on like a Saturday afternoon, and for some reason it's only on NHL Network, and you think, great, this looks like a great matchup. Too bad no one's going to be able to watch it.
Okay.
And I'm always looking like, I get NHL Network.
Will you watch this game tonight?
I'm going to watch it.
I would think you would.
I don't know what I'm going to do tonight. My wife's worked a couple nights in a row, and we've got a night together tonight, so it might be a movie night or something. So I don't know. But she's
not captivated by this.
Trek.
No,
probably
goal scoring record.
No,
she's not into it.
No.
Sal next. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. WGR. Tackle with their first round pick, Walter Nolan. Tackle with their first round pick, Walter Nolan.
The Buffalo Bills celebrated their topping out ceremony for the new Highmark Stadium earlier today as they put the final steel beam in place. Bills owner Terry Pegula, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, and many more spoke during this historic event. And for more on everything today, we do have plenty up at our website, WGR550.com. And we'll also get more on today as Sal Capaccio joins the show next. Also up at our website, Howard Simon and Locked On Bills host Joe Marino continue their draft profiles. Next up, Iowa State cornerback Darian Porter Jr. Sabres were on practice ice today, according to head coach Lindy Ruff. Josh Norris did skate on his own. Tyson Kozak, though, is week to week with a hip strain. And then the team also did announce that forward Noah Austin has been recalled from Rochester. He skated today with the team. And the Sabres, they are next in action tomorrow at home when they take on Tampa. We'll get more on the Sabres when Paul Hamilton joins the show at 5:30. Alexander Ovechkin's march towards history continues tonight at 7. He and Washington host Chicago. Ovechkin sits just 3 goals away from passing Wayne Gretzky for the all-time goals list. And then in baseball, doubleheader tonight for the Bisons down in Memphis. That starts at 5:30. It's going to be over on the Bet 1520. The Mets currently lead Toronto 2-0 in the third. And then coming up here in just a few minutes, the Yankees are in Pittsburgh to take on the Pirates. And then in college hoops, tomorrow afternoon, UB women host Troy, 5 p.m. in the NIT Championship. And then also tomorrow night, the Final Four in the men's bracket will get underway. Florida versus Auburn at 6 will get things underway. And then following that will be Duke versus Houston. And earlier today, it was announced that Duke freshman Cooper Flagg was named the AP Player of the Year. Coverage of the NCAA Championship Tournament on WGR and the Bet 1520 is brought to you by Window Nation. For all your window needs, visit windownation.com. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Sal Capaccio.
Sal Capaccio, Sal Capaccio, Sal Capaccio, Sal Capaccio, Sal Capaccio, Sal Capaccio, Sal Capaccio.
On WGR.
Florida plays Auburn. Duke plays Houston. Florida, Auburn, right? Carlin conference rivalry. They played twice. Right. I can do this. Florida, Auburn, Duke, Houston. The map.
That's right.
The country wants Houston because they're playing Duke.
You're the one bringing it back up, so I guess I'll pick at you a little. We talked to Carlin Hartman, your friend.
I know, but not about Auburn, really, for a minute.
I mentioned that they the conference, yeah, right. So I can't believe that, here 2 or 3 days later that you botched that.
I don't know.
That's all right.
UB plays Troy. The WNIT, I think, ever know that existed until this year, but it goes back to 1998. In fact, I think 94 for it as a preseason event. There's both a preseason and a postseason WNIT. So good luck to UB.
Yeah, tomorrow 6 o'clock, and they get to host the game. That's pretty awesome.
Yep. Sal Capaccio now on the Westher Hotline. Happy birthday, Sal.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Great day for it, obviously, out at the stadium. By the way, real quickly, just corrections, so people don't show up late. It is 5 p.m. tomorrow at UB at Alumni Arena.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Yes, good.
Yeah,
okay.
That's okay. 5 p.m. at Alumni Arena tomorrow. Yeah, the WNIT. I would say, too, I'm thinking about this schedule tomorrow for the Final Four. I don't know. I mean, wouldn't Florida Auburn sound like it's the better game than Houston Duke? Maybe not, because that's going to be the early game. A lot of times they just do it on, the better game. But Duke, I guess, is the bigger draw than anyone in this field. I guess you could have done anything, but it is Florida Auburn first, and then Houston Duke.
I think by far Duke would be the
most
reason.
Famous team.
Yeah, that's probably why, right? Yeah, I think you're right now.
Still so late.
Yeah,
still so late. Anyway, old man complaint. Sal, what was it like out there today?
It was cool for me personally, to see something I had never been a part of, never witnessed. I'm not in the construction business. For a couple of years of my life when I was younger, I did work a little construction in the summer during college, but we went the other way. I was like helping to pour walls, like foundations, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Something like this, with something going up, a structure like that, and being a part of that and watching that was really unique and cool for me. I'd never experienced it. I said to somebody, it's kind of the opposite of the ball dropping on New Year's Eve, because you're taking something going from the ground all the way up and putting it in and say, okay, we're here, right? And then, I guess it didn't dawn on me or hit me how big of a deal it was for the Bills and the NFL and the league. I knew it was for the Bills, but the NFL and everything until you got there and saw so many people and dignitaries of the league, including Roger Goodell. And obviously the governor was there. And, you'd expect the county commissioner and people from the city and the county. But that kind of put it a little bit more in perspective. And holy cow, guys. I mean, the workers, thousands of workers, and, hats off to them, no pun intended, with their construction hats. But, just to see all of them out there in their, bright uniforms, that they work when they're on the site was just really cool as well.
Yeah, nothing surprising about the politicians being there. And, of course, the workers are on site. I was surprised about Goodell, but I have to admit, I'm not one who's paying attention to any team's stadium construction, and when they would have this sort of ceremony for the last piece of steel going in, I have no idea if Goodell has been in other venues for this. Like, was he in California when SoFi got finished?
Probably,
but I would guess probably is the answer. But there is a special tie that he has to the area, having grown up in Jamestown. So I don't know if that matters, but I was surprised that it was as big a deal. I had been hearing. I know I saw Pete Goelli tweeting about that there was something happening today, but I had no idea it was going to be this spectacle that it turned out to be.
Listen, let me tell you something. When I went to the owners' meetings last week, I had my one-on-one with Pete Gwelly, and that's when he first said, hey, we're going to have a topping out ceremony on April 4th. And I'm like, oh, and he explained what that was. That's the first I had heard of it. I didn't know. And then this kind of percolated this week, and then somebody from the NFL said to me, hey, you're going to be there on Friday? And I'm thinking, yeah, I'll be there. Like, are you going to be there? I didn't know. This was during the owners' meetings. And then as the week went on and we learned, from the Bills, hey, we're having, this ceremony, I guess maybe you just want to make sure everything stays on schedule before you totally put something like that out there, right? I guess that would be maybe part of the reason why. But it was out there. Goodell, you're right, the tie to the area. And, him, I think he was a pretty big driving force here along with Kim and Terry. And I think this is kind of something that, he's been a part of since the beginning. Not that he isn't in other markets. I get a sense, though, that he might have been closer to this actual project, not just because he's from this area, but even closer to this project than he might have been with other teams, because I think Buffalo was unique because, for so many years, and I've said this many times today, as you guys know, you grew up the same way, hearing this team's going to leave, Ralph's going to sell the team, the stadium, they're never going to be able to do this. And I think that Roger Goodell was a big part of, once Terry Pegula took over in 2014, he was a big part of doing that. So, yeah, I thought that as well. I asked Roger Goodell once, by the way. I just want you to know, I always wonder. I said, hey, I know your dad was, his dad took over for Robert F. Kennedy after Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated. I don't know if people know that story. His dad was a New York State Assemblyman and became the senator. And I said, is Goodell Street in Buffalo named after your family? And surprisingly, he told me no, he doesn't think it is. I didn't know. He said it goes back longer than that, obviously, but I didn't know that. But, it's just kind of interesting that that's the case, too.
Yeah, it really is something, like, thinking about his role in this. Mostly, my feeling, whenever I heard Goodell talk about a future Bills stadium, I felt threatened.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And like to be here with him there for that it's actually happening, is really quite something.
And maybe it was threatening back before Terry and Kim took over, and then maybe we got in a little bit of a funky spot for a year or so before it was actually built. When I will tell you this, guys, when Terry and Kim bought the team in 2014, I had plenty of conversations with Kim about this, and she told me a couple things, and first of all, she's just assured, like, we're going to get this done. Like, obviously it's going to take a lot, but we're going to do it. We're not worried about it right now. We got a lot of other things we have to take care of. We're going to get this done. So once that happened, it was a little more putting me at ease. But she was the first person that I'd heard say, Kim told me this years ago, that, when we do it, Sal, it'll be like 60 to 65,000 seats. I'm like, well, why would you take so many seats away? And she was the first one. I give her so much credit. She said, look where this league is going. Like, you could stay at home and you can watch Sunday Ticket. You can do your gambling. You can do all that stuff. We need to give people a reason to go to the games. So what we have to do is concentrate on the amenities inside the stadium. Not as many people going, but when you get there, you have a great experience. And I give Kim a lot of credit for having that foresight.
Got to at least mention also Governor Hochul in this, too. Having the good fortune, I would say, in Western New York to have her in the seat probably made a difference, maybe a massive difference in this coming to fruition. I find it all basically echoing what you guys are saying, mostly surreal that it's real, that it's actually there. That would have been, I think, what I would have been thinking had it been out there today. I mean, I've seen it like you guys have. You drive by it and like, okay, this is happening. This is really happening. You go to that stadium experience and just sort of like it's a fantasy. But now that's happening 2026. Everything's on time. And the current stadium is going down, Pete told Sal, the following March.
That's right. He told me that when I talked to him at the owners' meetings. That was kind of reiterated today by a couple of people. That stadium will stay up through the first season of Bills football. Now, granted, there's not going to be used for Bills football, but a couple of things. Number one, I would assume you'd want that stadium up in case, there are any hiccups or anything. Like, at least you have a stadium there.
Right, don't wreck it before the other one's fully functional.
Right.
Yeah, right.
But the other thing that people have to understand is outside of that stadium, the Bills' offices, the field house, the practice facility, that's all staying where it is. They're not moving that across the street, right? That's all brand new. Like, they're going to have everything set up and still do everything Monday through Saturday, essentially, across the street where it currently is. There's no reason to do anything different. And then on game day, you play inside the stadium. No different than a lot of teams in the league do, basically.
Sal, forgive me because I was away when you had the chance to talk to Pete Goelli about all this stuff. Have they talked at all? Has he talked at all to you or anyone else in general about what sort of plans there might be for the opening of the new stadium? Like, will there be something before a Bills game?
Yeah.
Like when the arena opened, I think the Goo Goo Dolls played before there was a hockey game in there. Or maybe I've got that mixed up and they played at the Odd before the Odd got torn. Anyway, whatever it is. Because I saw Brian Mazurowski from our News Radio 930 this morning had, I thought, a great idea. Like a weekend festival, if both stadiums are still standing, have something in the old stadium and then the next night have another show in the new stadium.
It's a great question. It's partly, Brian's answer is partly spurred on by what Pete Goelli did tell me, which is what he said was they don't want to go into the new stadium for the Bills game cold. They just want to walk in there and run an NFL game. You got to work out some kinks, like a soft opening. Mm-hmm. So they will have something or some things planned starting in July of 27 right now. What that is, we don't know. They have ideas. He didn't disclose those to me. I still think they're figuring that out. So what's happened, Bulldog, when you were away, a lot of people had some fun with this, right? When I tweeted that out, it's like, okay, let's see what creativity we can have here. What are we doing in the new stadium? Are you going to have a concert? Who is it going to be? What's the best thing to do? Are you going to play soccer there? Are you going to play lacrosse there? All of these things can be on the table for sure. Are we doing a monster truck? I don't think so. Even a concert would have effect on the field, right? Yep. I mean, are you going to actually do that to this brand new pristine field you're putting in? Or I don't know how all this is going to work. So there's been a lot of ideas out there. It's funny that some people, some of the ideas are great, and they would say, well, you got to have an act that's a great act. And I'm like, I don't know if you have to. And I would say, to me, what you said about the Goo Goo Dolls, I go, what about a local group that really people are going to buy tickets to go to the stadium, not necessarily see the group or the band?
Yeah.
Sure, you want a big name. That would fit for me. I think of anything local. I don't know, maybe a concert, but he didn't say specifically, but it's a great question because everybody's having a little bit of their own creativity with this.
Right, you can go a lot of different ways. You could go for the big marquee act and charge $300 for tickets, or you could go with your idea, like you said, someone smaller, maybe even local, like you said, and get 60,000 people to pay $20 to come out there and just be a part of it. Like that would be kind of cool.
No doubt, and I would anticipate. He didn't tell me this for sure, but just from talking to people, I would anticipate that season ticket holders will have an ability at some point to go in and have something where they're going to see things, get the lay of the land before they go into the stadium. I think all of that is kind of being discussed. Yeah. The other thing that was discussed about this is what to do with the surrounding area of the stadium. They have their vision there too. Now they own the old ECC property, which is right there. And Mark Poloncarz said today what he would like to see is some sort of entertainment district around there. So obviously there's some thoughts there as well, like what to do around the area. I mean, I don't know what is ultimately going to happen, but I do think that people are coming together. And I'll tell you, the way this works, guys, right? There's all different government entities, right? You have the state, you have the county, you have Orchard Park, and then they're close to other proximities to places and things like that. So everybody's kind of got to get together to figure this out. But I will tell you, just from the conversations I had with people today, like those conversations are happening.
Yeah. You know what I like about what you said about the fans getting a chance to get in there at some point, whether it's an event or not. It reminds me of what you've always said about McDermott and the blue-red scrimmage, right? get the players in there. They let them, if they want to brush their teeth, they know where to go do that. Like, just get them familiar with the surroundings. And as the fans kind of need the same privilege, I guess, right? New surroundings.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Listen, I talked. You guys can. I think we probably have the sound at WGR550.com. I talked with Chris Brown about this today, and I walked up to Chris. Chris was looking up, and I said, all right, Chris Brown, are you looking at where you're going to be calling the game from the radio booth? And he said, yeah, and he has been involved in some of those discussions and kind of asked those questions, right? And he actually gave some detail about what that's going to look like. So everybody's got a stake in this, whether it's a season ticket holder, a worker, me on the field. At some point, I'd like to see, where am I going? Where's the locker room? How do I get to the field from here, right? All of those things have to happen at some point.
We can talk about this later some more. I think it's interesting. I do think it's a kind of a tough needle to thread, what that event would be. It can't just be anything. And people are going to want to go there, and it's got to measure up to the occasion of the opening of the stadium. It's the first thing. It can't be just, I love our February fixed draft, Sal. It can't be the February fixed draft. If they wanted us for the first day, we'd move it to July. I think that we'd all agree on that. But it's got to be. I wonder if lacrosse really is viable. Like, that's the PLL season is right there, and they move those games around every weekend. I mean, Albany is New York's city for that league. Mm-hmm. The New York Atlas is the name of the team, but come on, like, this is a pretty cool opportunity if it were available. Soccer seems kind of obvious too. If there were some friendly or some MLS, those I think would be my two top guesses for it, but we've got some time.
I would guess concert more than a sporting event myself. Okay. But Sal makes a good point about I don't know what sort of problems that could present, but I know they're planning on using that venue for concerts at some point, right? I mean, it's part of the reason they wanted to do what they're doing.
This is July of 2026, by the way, we're talking about, or even June, I suppose, but before the Bills move in. Yesterday, you had the dates for the off-season program. Of course, still one more year in the current stadium. And stuff happens as soon as 2 weeks from Monday.
April 21 is the first day of off-season workouts. If you have a new coach, you're allowed to begin earlier than that. I think either the 7th or the 14th, either way. Then teams that are returning coaches, they can begin later. April 21st for the Bills. They will have their OTAs the end of May for 3 days, and then the beginning of June the following week for 4 days, and then a mandatory minicamp wraps everything up June 10 through 12. I do think it's interesting, and I want to point out, I don't know the answer to this. I didn't talk to anybody yet because this happened yesterday with the schedule. This is the first time I can remember the Bills only having 2 weeks of OTAs. They normally have 3. Now, you can also have a voluntary veteran minicamp or an OTA. Like, you can do one or the other. But either way, it doesn't matter. They're not doing that extra week. You get 9 weeks from the start of your program to the end of your program. You get 9 weeks. The Bills generally take those 9 weeks. They're only doing 8 this year. And I don't know what the reasoning is, but they only have 2 OTA weeks, May 27th through 29, June 2nd, 3rd, and 5th. So 2 weeks of 3 days.
They want to minimize the fines to James Cook. That's why they're eliminating.
Other people tweeted the same thing.
Oh, really? Sorry, I'm such a hack.
Good one, Bulldog.
Actually, no. I shouldn't say that. I got a couple texts about that. That's what I said. But my friends having fun.
Oh, that's a big difference then. They're your friends rather than just like to
I ran into tweets. I didn't bring it up on social media, but somebody did text me. One of our media colleagues texted me, "Hey, did you find this weird?" I'm like, "Oh yeah," and then someone else did. So that was funny.
I wouldn't expect that you've had a chance to talk to anybody over there about the Hard Knocks possibility. But how do you feel about the possibility that the Bills could end up on Hard Knocks?
I have not yet. A lot of the stuff came out last week when we were at the owners' meetings and some of the changes, I guess.
I could see it.
I don't think the Bills would ever really want to do that. The Bills really like doing the red and blue stuff.
Right, their own stuff.
The embedded. Yeah, they're the embedded. And they have a lot of, there's good access there. And I think they feel very comfortable doing that. Look, I think for the Bills or anybody, you saw what happened last year with the New York Giants too, right? And whether it's the offseason or the in-season, you just want to be aware and know that it can go really off the rails. Even if it's unintended and you have the best intentions, they really like doing. I think, if I remember right, I think Brandon Beane was asked about it at some point recently. Maybe it was the end of your press conference, and he mentioned the embedded and how that's a really good opportunity for them to do those kinds of things.
Nobody wants to do hard knocks, though.
But somebody has to, right? Like, that's the point. Yeah. Somebody's going to get strong-armed into doing it, even if they don't want to.
It's been many years. They've never been on. There's like multiple hard knocks now. So the stadium storyline is an interesting added piece, too.
The MVP quarterback, right?
I could see it. I would think that they'd be. It's always about how the Bills are a popular team, TV and look, primetime schedule.
We'll see how it all comes together when that production, whoever is featured in it, gets off the ground. But I would bet, Sal, that what happened to Joe Shane and the Giants this past summer means teams are going to have way more say-so about what gets on the air and what doesn't. And I think maybe, in a way, as interesting as it was and as much as it got played up, it could be the thing that kills Hard Knocks. Because what makes it interesting is stuff that is, interesting that happens or controversial. And the more control the people involved have, the subjects of the documentary, the less that's likely to happen, So I wouldn't expect that whatever form it takes and whoever ends up being on it, I would doubt there ends up being any kind of a smoking gun that could come back to make someone look ridiculous because of what happened to the Giants.
You're probably right about that. I think that's right. We'll see. I will tell you, I remember, when at the Combine, that's when it was first starting to come out, in media circles, that it wouldn't be an NFL team. They were going to do North Carolina, right? Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah,
North Carolina,
yes.
Bill Belichick.
Yes.
And then the kibosh got put on that. Like, no, for some reason, something happened with Belichick or Lombardi, but anyway, that was going to happen, and then it wound up not happening. But they were pivoting from the NFL because everybody's like, not going to be me, the offseason Hard Knocks.
You get paid for it, I bet. I don't know. Should I know? I bet the team gets paid. Like, Bulldog is. Your point is logical, but at the same time, these kind of docu-series, they call them, in sports are happening more and more often. There's a Red Sox one that's starting now on Netflix where they're embedded with the Red Sox. So I do feel, the success of the F1 series and golf and tennis have had theirs. I think that's hockey. Was a Winter Classic.
I'm not saying they're going away. What I'm saying is it's going to kill it being any good. What happened last year with the Giants? It's going to be less interesting. I have no doubt. I mean, that space is growing in content creation around sports. But teams, leagues, players themselves are going to want to control it much more. And like those F1 things, I bet there's a lot more juicy stuff that happens while those cameras are rolling that gets left on the floor because they're in charge of it.
The Bills also, I don't know if this ends up mattering, but they're really good at keeping, the words right. Like, they don't step in it. And Daboll does all the time. Like, that was predictable. Maybe the Giants would be a team where that would be, the owner there and everything like that. That's not going to... Well, at least in terms of Sean and Brandon here, it's probably not much to worry about. Well, I kind of hope it happens. 1,000th game for Aaron Judge tonight, or right now, actually. I think it just started in Pittsburgh, 4 o'clock.
Oh, wow. Oh, it's a 4 o'clock game. I didn't realize it was a 4 o'clock game.
I think it is.
Against
Home
the
opener.
Pirates. Okay, that's why. And no Skeens this weekend against the Yankees, I guess, right? No, I mean, it's crazy. Like, I don't think he's scheduled to pitch tonight or the weekend against the Yankees.
Okay.
1,000 games for Aaron Judge. He kind of just came on the scene a little bit older than a lot of these, big-time hitters and big-time players. So, it's interesting. He's 1,000 games now. Real quick, before I go with you guys, next week, going to do our pod with Mike North. I know you guys love that, the schedule. So, here's your chance. You can text me. Think of a question. Mike, last year you gave me a great question. I think it was the Week 18 thing or something like that, and I asked him. So if you have a good question for Mike North this year, he will be appearing on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo with Matt Bove and me next week. We're going to be recording that.
Can't wait.
Good to know.
Happy birthday again. Thanks for your time.
You got it, guys. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, man. You too, Sal. Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. His appearances are always brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet?
Let's hear ideas for the first event at the stadium. I don't know. I don't have an idea yet that feels perfect. I mean, a concert can be fine, right? even great.
But it's one thing to have a concert like someone on the YouTube chat here said, and this sounds correct. I was right. It was Goo Goo Dolls, Bare Naked Ladies, and 10,000 Maniacs played at the arena. That was like the first event at the arena. That's an 18,000 seat arena. That's a good size venue for that show. That show in a 65,000 seat stadium, no, this is not going to work. Unless it's just one of these things, like Sal said, people are just going to want to go anyway. So like almost whatever it is, like so maybe that could still work. If it doesn't have to be like Oasis reunion or something. It could be something smaller,
Taylor,
and just have people are going to want to go just because they want to go check out the stadium.
Yep. I think it might be better if it's a sporting event, but okay. Lines open for your calls at 803-0550. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
We know you can't hear every moment
The Buffalo Bills celebrated their topping out ceremony for the new Highmark Stadium earlier this morning. They put the final steel beam in place. Bills owner Terry Pegula, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, and plenty more spoke today at this historic event. For more on everything from this morning, we do have plenty up at our website, WGR550.com. And also up there is Howard Simon and Locked On Bills host Joe Marino's draft profiles. Those continue today with the next player being up, Iowa State cornerback Darian Porter Jr. Sabres practice today. According to head coach Lindy Ruff, Josh Norris did skate on his own, not with the team. Tyson Kozak is week to week with a hip strain, and Jordan Greenway also missed this morning. The team did announce as well they are calling up forward Noah Austin from Rochester. He skated with the team at practice, and the Sabres, they're next in action tomorrow night at home against Tampa. We'll get more on the Sabres when Paul Hamilton joins the show at 5:30. Alexander Ovechkin also continues his march towards history tonight at 7. He and Washington host Chicago. Ovechkin sits just 3 goals away from passing Wayne Gretzky. And then doubleheader tonight for the Bisons down in Memphis. That begins at 5:30. It'll be over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. While the majors, the Mets currently lead Toronto 2-0 in the 5th, and the Yankees are taking on Pittsburgh. That game is currently tied at 0 in the 2nd. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Point in time, and I will tell you, for people that have not been in there yet, it is a very intimate feeling building. Even though it was only framework and prefab concrete was just going in, the other side of the stadium looks so much closer in this building than it does in the old bowl framework of the old Highmark Stadium. And a lot of people described it as feeling like a big hockey arena. It's going to be a very intimate stadium when this thing is complete.
Love it. Chris Brown this morning out at the stadium. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. One fun topic of discussion around the stadium is how to open it. Pete Gwelly, COO of the Bills and Sabres, told Sal a few days ago, it's in writing at the website, WGR550.com, that he wants there to be some event that they use as kind of a rehearsal before the Bills move in. So what should that be? 803-0550 for your calls. Talking draft, too. We haven't gotten into that yet, but it's legally necessary that we talk about the draft, at least some. So we will be sure to do that. I don't want any trouble.
Me neither. I want to go into the weekend with a clean conscience.
Yes.
I mean, as close to clean as I can get at this point.
John is with us. Hello, John.
Good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
So, talking about ideas for the new stadium in July 26th, it makes sense to me that the Bills might look at finally moving training camp from Rochester back to Buffalo in the new stadium. It's football focused. Now, it's probably not going to draw 60,000 people a day. It might, but it would allow the team to have a soft open for the stadium, and it would be an exciting event for fans in Buffalo to finally have training camp from Rochester back to the new stadium.
It's a reasonable enough idea. Only problem is that I saw Pete Coelho recently talking about how they're looking at extending like a multi-year agreement to continue having training camp in Rochester. So I doubt that is in the cards, but it's a good enough idea.
Yes.
But I just don't think it's realistic considering that they're going to continue their relationship with St. John Fisher University.
Yeah, you got it. Nailed it. What about the UFL? The Battlehawks and the Renegades. Is that a team? Florida versus Auburn. Duke versus Houston. UFL game, spring, sort of test run it. I think my new favorite idea has been sent on Twitter by a listener named Mike, who said, what about SummerSlam?
A big wrestling event.
A big wrestling event might be perfect. The way I think about this, I don't know if the Bills would think it's the worst idea ever, but like it's pretty big.
Yeah, those events happen in football stadiums.
Yeah.
Domed ones, usually, I think, but still.
Okay. I wonder if always, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. It was funny to hear Sal mention, like, monster trucks. right? Like I just like those are they have those in the arena too. It's tough. I went to one when the kids were little. The stadium is a much bigger venue for that. Another listener on Twitter, Anthony, suggested the new USL soccer team that is looking for a venue. I think they're talking about doing something downtown, near one of the parking lots across from the arena downtown. But they're supposed to start in 2026. Like that would be good. That to me, that's perfectly reasonable. And I'm not against the lacrosse or soccer idea, it being a sporting event. I guess I just sort of like the concert idea. Whatever it is, it needs to be something that I think is like I don't need it to be U2. Okay, like I think because that you'd go into that. First of all, that's a super expensive ticket, and then your expectation is like if you're looking for a dry run, if you're the Bills, I think you want people to be coming in without heightened expectations. Like if you're spending $1,000 on tickets to see Bruce Springsteen, you're going and you want everything to work, right? You know, it's not a dry run, I don't think. And so
yeah, not exactly.
The right. I mean, I think the price point for access to the event matters because if you're sort of trying things on, then that gives me the impression that you'll be working out wrinkles, which is totally understandable. But you don't want that. It's something people paid a premium platinum price to get into. Mm-hmm. So that's where, to me, soccer, lacrosse, a smaller, a concert featuring bands that, play arenas, okay, not a band that plays bars. Like Sal mentioned, I don't think there's a local band that I can think of that could pull off playing in a stadium and not just look almost ridiculous doing it. It's just such a big show. It's just a different sort of production that, you just don't have. There's just no way for me that could be pulled off. But, a smaller, like I said, that doesn't have to be, can be more contemporary than that even, although they're still active. A show like that wouldn't draw 60,000 fans to the current stadium. But, again, you make the price right, and you're getting everybody in there, and it's more relaxed. And, I don't think you want to make it free either, because then people just treat it like it doesn't really mean anything. So you just got to find a sweet spot there where, yeah, I got to work, I got to spend something to get it, I'm going to respect it, but it's not so pricey that I'm going in there and I'm going to be mad if the bathrooms don't work or something. Like just you got to be ready to go in and have it maybe be bumpy because it's the first time, going around the new place.
What about rodeo? Let's get some rodeo going in there.
I'm into that.
Kick up that field day one.
Right, talk about wrecking.
Just absolutely destroy the place day one. Rodeo.
Right.
Curling probably out.
I would guess that's probably out, yes.
But they do play. It seems seamless how these NHL games in warm climates just go off outdoors now. I guess it's like nothing to Florida. So maybe curling could be likewise. We could get that out there. A slam event. They're in the States now. One of the slams next year is in Tahoe.
Really?
Yep. All-star event this year in Nashville. I'm just kidding. It's not going to be the first event at the new stadium. I can dream. Lacrosse would fit with the time of year. Soccer would too. Respectfully toward the Buffalo team, I'm thinking more like Tottenham Hotspur and somebody. They have those. Like a few big European clubs come over in the summer and play MLS teams or each other, whatever it is, in big stadiums. And I'm for that. The Bills have played in the Spurs stadium, so maybe the Spurs can play in theirs.
That, to me,
Spurs, not those
if you're talking about Premier League teams or La Liga, like famous European football, that price point is going in the direction that I don't think I want to go. Yeah.
Too high? Too big an event?
Yeah.
A friendly between Spurs and Borussia Dortmund, our sister city from Germany.
I don't think those teams are that charitable about where they go play. I think they get compensated handsomely. So if they're getting compensated handsomely, then who's? I think it's too big. That is like U2 to me. Is
really
like English soccer? Yeah, I think.
What about like a second flight team?
Right. Get Wrexham over here.
Wrexham. Really, I don't know. I kind of feel like it isn't quite that, but I don't know. I've never looked up tickets for one of those.
Yeah.
Thought of going. I know there are a few teams coming again this year, though.
They do it every year. I think maybe more and more leagues and teams are doing that.
Everton, Arsenal first up tomorrow.
7 a.m.?
Is it maybe?
I don't know. That often is the first game on Saturday is 7 a.m.
When we turned the clocks ahead, all those soccer times got moved up an hour because they didn't bother turning clocks around.
Is it 8 a.m. maybe tomorrow then? I don't know.
Maybe.
I haven't looked.
Could be a trip down hurdle for little Saturday morning.
Look at you.
Soccer. Maybe.
All right. Yeah.
Oh, I've got lacrosse tomorrow.
They are 7:30 tomorrow. Everton Arsenal. That's I'm seeing. USA Network.
Everton's first loss the other day to Liverpool in a long time. Mostly they tie. That's something, though. It's not a loss. Everton. I'm telling you who my favorite teams. Everton, Borussia Dortmund, and the Spurs idea I like because, again, the connection with the Bills playing.
Having played in their stadium already. Yeah.
That's all that is. Was Dave Rayner at the thing today? The topping out? He should have been there.
I did. I saw a photo. I saw a photo. Sorry, of like the dais before it began, and it was from behind all the seats, and there were little like name tags on a lot of the chairs, and I sort of scanned through there to like. Who's invited here? And the first name I saw was Scott Radicek. Mm-hmm. And are there going to be a bunch of Bills alumni at this thing? No, he is very prominent in the architectural firm. It took me a second because I saw no other Bills players' names that I recognized. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
He's on that side of it now.
He's on that side.
Is it HOK?
That sounds right.
All right. Here's Mike next. Hi, Mike.
Hey guys, I was thinking about the opening of the stadium and thought it would be cool if they televised the comeback game on what I'm assuming is going to be some pretty big screens in there.
You would hope.
You would hope.
You would hope. Yeah. Thanks, Mike. I don't know if I would go to that. Some people would. Would it? What do you want to draw for whatever this is going to be? You want to pack the place? You don't want it empty.
Right. I think you want it close to packed because that's if you're doing a dry run, right? I mean, what are you proving if you open the doors to the stadium and you handle 20,000 people in there? You know, you're definitely going to learn some things, but I think you want pretty close to a full house. Parking, foot traffic getting in and out, and services and everything. I think that's the purpose of the dry run. I think you want a pretty full house.
This isn't really fair to the caller and his point because I get the premise of it, but you have all these fancy new screens. You're not going to put a game from 1992 on it to show how cool your screens are, right?
There's
no offense to the guy because that's not what he was going for.
Right.
Yeah, you can't do that, I think.
Yeah, unless there's a way to enhance like 35-year-old video and make it look like 4K. I don't think you're pulling
What's the game you would pick then?
The New England playoff game.
I think I'd pick 13 seconds, just not show the end. That's the best one. That's the best it ever got.
Yeah.
Until that final sequence.
I mistakenly deleted that from my Fubo. For a long time after that game had happened, I said, like, I don't know when I'm ever going to watch it, but it's sitting there. I'm saving it. And at some point, I went on a delete bender because it started taping. For a while, it was taping every Sabres game. And everything. I just had to go in and start clean stuff out. Like, what did I do?
You don't need any of it.
No, I don't remember asking it to record these things. It's one of these things that I think if you do it once, like, hey, I want to record this football game, then it just starts recording Bills games, including the replays on the NFL Network. Mm. So I just went through, delete, and I must have just got away from me. I deleted that game, and I knew it immediately. I went, oh, I liked having that as something we could talk about. Even, hey, have you ever gone back and watched it like that? And I know I can find it anywhere. So it's,
YouTube, boom, there it is.
Deal. But I liked it being there. Like every time I would go in that area of my that app, it was the only thing I had saved in recordings was that Bills Chiefs 13 seconds game, and now that's gone. I'm like, I kind of miss it.
You like the significance of it?
Yeah.
Let's get Neil in quickly. Hi, Neil.
Hey, I'm going back to the Tottenham Hotspur idea for the opening event at the new stadium.
Yes.
Next summer is a World Cup year, and so those preseason friendlies are less of a draw because all the World Cup players are not on those tours.
I didn't
So
realize
think it would
that.
be as
Okay, I mean, fair enough. Maybe that would ruin that idea. Would it? How many World Cup players would be on, an average Premier League team? 2? 1?
I was going to say 5. There's a lot of countries.
There are so many countries.
There's a lot of countries.
And there are a lot of countries that will not have any players in the Premier League at all.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Most, not
That's right.
most.
Yeah. And I don't know how much whether or not, the stars of the teams are there or not. I don't know how. I've never paid close enough attention. The only time I watched one of those matches was when Man United was on a tour and I was in the hospital. And so I don't even remember who they played, but I was laid up. And so my team is playing somebody in San Francisco or wherever. I don't remember where they were playing. And I watched it, and I don't think it was all the A-listers. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
juniors.
Yeah, whatever. So
okay.
I don't know that has to be. It's more the name of the team that's the draw than,
Okay. All right, I won't give up on it. Thanks, Neil. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, back after this time out on WGR. Taking your calls with ideas on how they should open the stadium next summer. The Bills have said they'd like to have an event there before they move in. So what's best? My favorite idea that I heard is wrestling. My favorite idea of my own is Premier League exhibition, but Bulldog thinks that's too rich.
Yeah, I think so. And concert is my favorite idea. The SummerSlam is already scheduled for somewhere next summer.
Well,
so that's out for us. I think
goes.
Zach told me during the break. I forget. Maybe he said Minneapolis, but that's already been assigned.
That's maybe a challenge in this. Is think about golf tournaments and such. Like they're planned way in advance, so you'd have to get something that moves concert up the list.
Yeah,
because any sort of big, maybe those Premier League games have also already been, booked.
It might be, yeah.
And you don't have the facility yet.
Right.
That might be right. Let's go to Doug next. Hi, Doug.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I actually love the concert idea, but not, like you said, Bulldog, you two might be too big.
Right.
But I've been to a lot of, rock festivals because that's my style of music, but how about a one-day rock festival that starts at 9 in the morning and goes till nighttime, where you get Shinedown being the lead band and then working your way down, 3 Days Grace, all them.
Mm-hmm.
So now you get to experience the tailgating. Okay, where are we going to tailgate now with the new stadium? Because it's going to be farther away than the other lots. And, there's bands that people aren't going to want to see, so then they're going to be walking around using the facilities and the restaurants or whatever they have. So you get make it a whole day event.
Yeah, I like this idea. Certainly a music festival or concert is my favorite idea. I think, though, the bands you're mentioning and hard, I think you want something that's going to be more friendly, more family friendly even. And so I doubt that you go too hard. You're going to want something that's very middle of the road. I think, right? So what that is, I don't know. But it's out there. It's not my genre, but something that's in the middle lane, safe.
Should it be mine? It might be mine, but my bands are all old.
Right.
Right. Let's get Ambrosia in there.
Right. Yeah.
Let's get Journey in there. That's better.
That's more Journey. What I'm talking about. I would not be excited about that, but it would work. I'm prepared to not love whatever this event is going to be. I don't want it to be my stuff. I'm not going to tell. I think Wilco should open the stadium. I'm not a moron. I don't mean to imply that the caller wanting his genre of music means he's a moron. I'm just saying. I'm not over here thinking it's going to be a something that I'm going to be. Oh, I can't wait to go to that. I'm not really care what the event is. I can't wait to go to see the stadium.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I'm saying don't make it about the acts or the events as much, because the stadium should be the star of the show. And that's to me where lacrosse or soccer comes in, because I don't think 60,000 people are like, oh, I can't wait to go watch some lacrosse. But, it's a nice day in the summer, and it's the stadium, and tickets are cheap, and it's my first chance to go check it out. Yeah, fine. I'll go sit and look at a lacrosse game for 20 minutes and then walk around and do whatever I'm going to do. That could work, even maybe better than a concert. Because a concert gets tricky with, the caller kind of reminding me of it, what genre is it, what works. You don't necessarily want a show where people are going to be drinking 40-ounce beers out of cowboy boots.
You don't want Woodstock.
No, right.
Yeah, you might want Journey, but you don't want Woodstock.
Not that I'm against drinking 40 ounces of beer out of a cowboy boot. I'm just saying I don't think that's the show you want to open the stadium.
Right. Back after the update here on WGR.
Call or text WGR.
The Buffalo Bills celebrated their topping out ceremony for the new Highmark Stadium earlier this morning. They put the final steel beam in place. Bills owner Terry Pegula, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, and many more spoke during this historic event. And for more on everything today, we do have plenty up at our website, WGR550.com. And also, that can be found at our website, Howard Simon and Locked On Bills host Joe Marino continuing their draft profiles. The next player is up, Iowa State cornerback Darian Porter Jr. Sabres were on the practice ice today. According to head coach Lindy Ruff, Josh Norris did skate on his own. Tyson Gozak is week to week with a hip strain, and Jordan Greenway also missed the team skate. The team, though, did also announce forward Noah Ostlund. He's been recalled from Rochester. He did skate with the team this morning. Buffalo is next in action tomorrow at home against Tampa. We'll get more on the Sabres when Paul Hamilton joins the show at 5:30. Alexander Ovechkin, he continues his march towards history tonight at 7. Washington hosts Chicago. Ovechkin just 3 goals away from passing Wayne Gretzky. We do have a doubleheader tonight for the Bisons. It's down in Memphis starting at 5:30. That's going to be over on our sister station, The Bet 1520. The Mets currently lead Toronto 5-0 in the 6th, and the Yankees, they lead the Pirates 2-0 in the 3rd. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
I wonder what kind of working relationship you'd have with Satan.
It's Mike Schopp.
I've often wondered that.
Like he, they, I don't know what his pronouns are, or their pronoun. Anyway, Satan.
And the Bulldog.
What's the upside of doing well?
Well, maybe they're too busy making everyone else's life hell.
Oh, boy.
And
wow.
you might just be able to do your own thing if you're partnered with Satan.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
They're too busy, making Scott Norwood miss field goals.
Oh, come on.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
All right, welcome back. You good?
I'm shook. Shook is what I am. Do you want me to tell the whole? You've opened the door, buddy. Here it comes. So I walk around during the breaks, and we don't have the biggest office, the biggest floor, but and I could go out. I have a way to get in and out, but I do laps around our offices during the breaks. And a part of that is there's a large conference room with, 15, 16 chairs around it, big table. We have meetings in there sometimes. And that's like the end of my loop. I loop through that room or walk around the table and then come back here. And I got in the habit when I was doing this in the winter of tucking the chairs into the table, in part because I'm a lunatic and I like to have everything look symmetrical, and so I want the chairs to look. But it's also to protect myself. At 5 o'clock on a Wednesday in the winter, it's dark in there. And if I go walking through there, it's pitch dark, the shades are closed, I'm going to trip and fall on a chair that's askew. So
terrible.
I've gotten in the habit of tucking the chairs in. So, 45 minutes ago, I took this walk. And I went through that room, and I didn't have to tuck any chairs in, and it's not as big an issue now because it's light out until we're off the air.
You can see your way around.
I can see my way around if there's something in my way. But everything was neat. Like all the chairs were tucked in. It was fine. I didn't have to move anything, and I just walked through and came back. And then just now at 4:58 or whenever we went to break, I got up and walked around, did the same loop, and there were like 10 chairs as askew in there as I've ever seen. Like somebody was sitting and just pushed the chair as far and as hard as they could away from the table and left the room. 10 different people did this in that room, and there are 8 people here right now?
I'm not sure there are that many.
I mean, you got us
there are
3.
4 of us.
There's Puckett's out there. There's Brayton out there. A couple of other dudes. Producer for Bowerly's show. There's definitely
10.
less than 10.
Okay.
What happened between 4:15 and 5 o'clock? Like, did everyone show up for a meeting and just wreck the room? I mean, wreck the room's a little strong, and then just leave?
On a Friday, I doubt it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of sunny. Well, I just have no idea. I feel like someone who knows that I do that with the chairs is messing with me. But there's nobody here. There are a couple of women who work down at that end of the building that I have confided in them that I have a thing about the chair. I tuck the chair. I want the chairs to look nice. And they kid me about it when they see me. They're not here every day, but when they see me, they smile and laugh and like, there he goes to fix his chairs or whatever. Yeah, Allie.
Samantha?
Yes. And so they're not here. No one's here. Like, I could see Allie wanting to mess with me that way.
Really?
Yeah.
She doesn't seem that type to me.
She has made she makes fun of me in a fun, good-natured way about this, that I take this walk and that I have this chair thing.
Well, you may know her better than I do, but sometimes people have that and you don't know it. That sort of capacity.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if she were here. I would have thought, why did you do that to the chair? I would have immediately accused her of messing with the chairs.
You sort of want to right now anyway, even though she's not. You haven't seen her.
Right. I don't understand. Like, what happened to those chairs? Who moved those chairs? Who was in there? I mean, there's
really no chance there was a meeting.
No. If everyone who's here in the building right now went down there, including us, and left the chairs like that, that's the only explanation I have. And I know we didn't do that. I don't believe any of the people that are working in the newsroom went and did that. What the hell happened?
I don't know. What would make the most sense?
It wasn't just one chair either. It literally was like 10 chairs were just all over the place in there. I mean, as far away from the table as the walls would allow them to be is where the chairs were. And I just, I stood in the doorway like, how? Why?
You'd been there an hour ago.
Not even an hour ago.
And then you went back.
Yeah. And there's no one here. I'm
ghosts.
I am shook by this. Honest to God, I do not understand what just happened.
What would be the likeliest scenario? Something happened.
Yeah.
There was no meeting. There's no way the big shots are coming in to have a meeting, and they wouldn't even do that anyway. I feel like most of the people we work for would put the chairs back. You know, like you're taught to do. Like you're taught to do.
I can tell
maybe
you.
Not.
I can tell you that does not happen.
Okay, maybe not. But they're not in the building.
Yeah, and
so that's out.
And this was way more aggressive than it. Normally, there'd be like a chair or two that might be in my way that I could trip on if it were dark, and I got to tuck it in.
Mm-hmm.
This again was like 10 of the chairs were just like, what's even happening?
I don't know.
It would not have been. Given the state of the room, it would not have been surprising to see one of the chairs on the table. Literally, that's how messed up the room was.
You know, I hadn't thought of that one.
So I just don't have any idea what could have happened.
I should have thought of that one.
Did you go down there during a break and move the chairs?
I've been doing it every day. And last week, right, Zach? One day, I talked about it.
Wait, this is
real. The audience knows.
Oh, you guys are the best.
I was so worried I missed your live reaction when I had to do my update. I was very nervous I missed your live reaction.
I couldn't look at you. I was staring at my phone when you were telling me what happened.
I walked in and stood at the door. Like, I didn't even sit down. I couldn't even get in the room. I'm just like, how many people are... I'm yelling. How many people are in here right now? 8 of us?
I try since you haven't said anything. Like it's just for me, just also getting up and walking around. But I try to put the chairs in and spread them out in a certain way that makes it impossible to understand. Like the chairs are touching each other face to face or back to back, all the way in the corner. Today I put one that's like facing right down at the garbage can. So you'd be like sitting right up on top of the garbage can?
Well,
I don't know.
Good job.
I don't know.
You did a good job.
Finally.
You shook me.
Finally a payoff.
Were you what? So you have been doing this for how long?
Since shortly after the time you told me that the thing. Like that you go down there and
fix the chairs so I don't trip on them?
Yes, since shortly after that. Not every day, but every other day.
Were you doing this when it was dark out still?
I don't know. It was whenever you said that.
Because I never experienced. I never had any. What
was that? Like 2 or 3 months ago?
Yeah.
Okay. Since then.
Wow.
And I do think like it hasn't come up yet. Is there a way I can make it even more ridiculous where the chairs, like I haven't gone as far as to stack them or put them on the table.
Right.
Because I really don't want a problem.
Right. Well, today was the first, they have been askew, and the room has looked different other days when I've gone down there after having been in there already, when I don't think anyone's here, but I guess I'm not sure. They could have been in a different conference room having a meeting with the door closed, and they, for some reason, went in that room because they needed the TV in there or something. I don't know. Yeah. So I've never really given it a thought, and it's never been askew enough for me to react the way I reacted. You finally got me to where I was like, how could this have happened?
I love the one where, like I did, the first one, if you go right to around the table from right to left, the first change I made is to have the chairs, like the front of the chair just touching the other one. Like you would, if people were sitting in those chairs in that configuration, they'd be on top of each other.
Right, like holding hands and like doing some sort of a trust exercise or something.
Yeah,
right?
Something sexual. Like it would be, why would two chairs be positioned like that ever? Because it would never happen if you just got up and left. It would never end up where the chairs are literally touching front to front.
Right.
Yeah. And I know you had a thing about that one that's a different kind of chair.
Oh, yeah.
So I always make sure to move one of those.
Yeah.
The leather one.
Okay, yeah.
That's all over now. I mean, that's it.
That has been...
It's worth it.
What I've... Prior to today, when... Because the chairs... There are 3 kinds of chairs in the room.
Is that right?
There are.
I should know that by now. You'd think I would know that by now. One set of them are exactly the same chairs that we're sitting in right now. Mm-hmm. Then there's chairs that have the same seat and back as we're sitting in, but have different arms, longer, sort of curved arms. Then there are chairs that have those same curved arms, but different backs and seats, like full leather or whatever, vinyl, I don't know, whatever it is, coverings. And I told Allie this when I first brought it up to her. Eventually, I confided in her that I'm stopping short of looking in the other conference room to see if there's enough chairs to make all the ones in the room I walk through the same. Swap them out.
So what I've done is I have all of the kind of chairs. The one kind of chairs are on one side of the table. The other kind of chairs are on the other side of the table. That all matches because I'm insane, and that works for me. The ends of the table, anything goes. I don't really care.
Right. Okay.
So when
You've made that change.
When I see one of the chairs like we're sitting in on the other side of the table, I think, is there someone who always sits over there that wants this chair that I'm annoying?
Yeah.
By moving it and forcing them to sit in this.
Well, they probably
turns
yes.
out it's just you the whole time.
Probably yes. No, there could be somebody who wants to sit in a certain chair, and they probably all sit in the same seats in those meetings.
You've had a months-long gag running. I went to Puerto Rico and come home, and finally you get
I don't even remember why I brought it up. I didn't have a thought to bring it up. It was right at the beginning of a show one day last week. And do you remember why? I don't remember even why I said
it. You were missing me, that's why.
Something.
Couldn't have been that.
It just sort of came out. Like I felt like I was probably ruining it. By announcing it.
Nobody said a word to me.
Yeah. Great for me. But thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. or instead, maybe we're just so into each other that nobody would spoil it. Maybe let's say it was that.
Yeah,
not that nobody was listening.
That was it. Yeah, that had to be it.
Even nobody at work said anything to me.
Right.
That could be a bad sign. I mean,
right.
The key still works, but
right.
I don't know.
I gotcha. Yeah.
It could be ending soon for me.
Oh, man. And I'm over here accusing poor Allie.
Well, not really. I mean, you didn't think it was her. You just didn't have a better idea.
I didn't have a better idea. Like, I guess I forgot that I told you I have this thing about such detail about the chairs.
I could have given you the weekend on this.
Yeah, you definitely could have. You probably should have.
Somebody then maybe tells you.
Yeah, if I'm out tomorrow or something, maybe somebody says like, "Hey, I heard you, on Friday talking about the chairs. It was Mike."
Should I have done that instead? Should I have just let it hang, until somebody else told him it was me? I don't know. I couldn't have.
I did. I'm trying to remember how long I let this run. We rented a car while we were in Puerto Rico, and it was a Hyundai Santa Fe, which is the same car you drive, but because it was a newer model because it doesn't look anything like your car. I described it to my kids because we were picking them up at the airport. I'm like, I'm going to be driving a car that looks like it was built in Minecraft. is how I would say it. And I like the car. I like the design of the car, but it's all sort of square.
Yeah.
It's just a lot, and it's very attractive and it's super comfortable. We all fit. We're huge, and we all fit in there. It was great. I noticed, in fact, I think it was when the kids were flying in, and I wanted to tell them what kind of car we were in, and I was in the car. I wasn't driving at the moment, and I was in the driver's seat of the car, and I'm looking around the car for some sign of what, like, tell me what you are, car, right? Usually a car has some insignia, the make or model on the dashboard somewhere. This car had no markings inside it at all to tell you what it was.
Okay.
So I noticed that, and then Owen was driving. The day we went and played golf, I had a few beers and he didn't, so he drove us back from the golf course. And we're sitting at a red light, and I said to him, Take a look at your field of vision here for a second and tell me if you notice anything peculiar about this car. And I said, it has nothing to do with its operational functionality or safety or anything at all. It's aesthetic. Just tell me if you notice anything that seems odd about this car. And he sat there and he looked around, and then the light turned green. He started going, and he's like, this is driving me crazy. Like, what could it be? What is it? What is it? And I think I let him, like, through the night. I think it wasn't until hours later I said, there's no insignia that tells you what make or model car it is inside the car. Like, even when you start it up, it doesn't say, like, Hyundai, nothing. There was no, that was kind of strange. Like, cars usually want you to know what you're driving. So I had a little thing like that with him where I was able to.
You let him hang.
I let him hang for a bit. But
did you put all the chairs back?
Oh, yeah, the chairs were all back. Yeah. I couldn't. I couldn't. Well, I can't live.
Of course. Well, thank you. I should thank you for that. Because now I have no chance that on, like, Monday morning somebody finally, that's enough. Enough with the chairs. They're all over the room. What happened in here? Then they get, like, the building people involved, and maybe there's cameras, and I guess I should be lucky that hasn't happened yet, as far as I know. Who's coming in here at night and moving all the chairs around? Like, that might be a thing you could ask. But
I love that this has been going on for months without me realizing it. It was never dramatic enough for me to notice like I did just now.
It only worked because you went down there twice.
That's right.
And I went in between and moved everything around. And when I come out of that room, I sort of jerk my head to the right to see if you're going to see me.
Right.
Like, what's my story? If we went down on the same break, and you see me come out of that room, like, what are you doing? What's this?
Yeah. You never come down here.
You never come down here. Okay.
That was a very good guess.
All right.
Full marks to you. Good job.
I got the payoff
You
on
did.
a Friday. Perfect little payoff.
Really did. Because I was...
No guest in the way?
I was aghast when I walked back in the room. I just, like, how could this happen?
I was happy with the garbage can one. I don't know. Right up against the wall. A chair just, like, pinned against the wall with a garbage can in front of it. Maybe somebody had to throw up or something.
I got to tell you, I'm not even sure I noticed it.
Okay.
That's how shook I was when I walked in the room. Like, there was enough going on in my field of vision immediately that I probably, by the time I got to the garbage can chair, I just straightened it out and didn't even think about how it was positioned.
You were already wondering how.
Right. And I got down, there was a shorter break. I was worried about getting back. I was going to leave the chairs. I thought, I can't leave the chairs.
I also would do a back-to-back one that I like.
I need to fix the
I did a back-to-back one. Why would that be? Why would
Right.
there be back-to-back?
Right.
Anyway, so much for that has ended. That chapter has been closed. Wow. Paul Hamilton after sports on WGR.
We
those chairs in that conference room down the hall will be completely just moved all around the room tomorrow. What do you think the chances of that are? Shh. I know, brilliant, right? He said the one time, so he walks, so do I, during breaks, just stretch the legs. And he was saying about how he walked into that conference room, just sort of takes a loop, but it started to bother him that the chairs were not perfectly situated. Like, they were just a little bit not perfectly back together. The family at the restaurant just left, and the staff isn't back yet to sort of redress the scene. So what did he say? Like, he would put the chairs back, or he didn't even want to go in there anymore because the chairs weren't, like, properly. So I haven't told anybody this yet, but for like the last 2 months, once or twice a week, I'll just go down there and move all the chairs around. I've been a little bit wondering if, like, it would be a thing for management. They have, like, serious meetings in there, as serious as meetings can be about a place like ours. So would somebody, I wonder if anybody's, like, sort of mentioned that. You walk in that room, I'll have 2 chairs facing each other, like touching. I'll have maybe one on top of another one, back to the table, facing the wall, just, stupid, meaningless stuff. But I think that makes him crazy. And it's no good if I don't eventually admit it, because then I'll tackle with their first-round pick, Walter Nolan.
Earlier this morning, the Buffalo Bills celebrated their topping out ceremony for the new Highmark Stadium as they put the final steel beam in place. Bills owner Terry Pegula, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, and many more spoke during this historic event. And for more on everything from this morning, we do have plenty of it up at our website, WGR550.com. Also up at our website, Howard Simon and Locked On Bills host Joe Marino continued their draft profiles. And next up, Iowa State cornerback Darian Porter Jr. To the Sabres, they had practice today. According to head coach Lindy Ruff, Josh Norris did skate on his own. Tyson Kozak, though, was week to week with a hip strain, and Jordan Greenway also missed. The team did, though, have an announcement to make in terms of their lineup. Noah Ostlund has been recalled from Rochester. He skated today with the team. The Sabres are next in action tomorrow night at home against Tampa. We'll get more on the Sabres as Paul Hamilton joins the show next. And then over in baseball, doubleheader tonight for the Bisons down in Memphis. That first game is starting here in just a few minutes. That's going to be over on the Bet 1520. The Mets currently lead Toronto 5-0 in the 8th, and the Yankees lead the Pirates 4-1 in the 4th. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Paul.
That's what they called me in college.
He has the fact.
People ask me, well, how are the Sabres going to, are they going to win tonight? I don't have a clue.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Sabres have been off since Tuesday, going back to that night and their win in Ottawa, on a bit of a roll here in the last half dozen games or so, even though, Bulldog, they're getting buried in the expected stuff. These games, ironically,
right? They're not
Reimer game. There's a Reimer game or two.
Yeah, they're not playing great, but they're getting good results.
Yeah,
seems. Yeah,
I guess that's okay.
Whatever.
Paul Hamilton on the Wester hotline. Paul, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Okay. What do you think about these games of late, including the game in Ottawa, which, they had the lead throughout, but maybe not their best performance. Still a win.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They've been able to win at times when they don't have their best performance, which is what better teams do. And so that was a positive for them. And, they seem to get over the bad games pretty quickly. It doesn't turn into 13 games or 10 games or, they had a stinker in Detroit. They had a stinker in Philadelphia and played better, and won games right afterwards. So, that's something that they're learning to do is, all right, we lost. We didn't play well. Put it away. Let's go get one.
I apologize to both you, Paul, and our audience, and I guess Mike as well, too, if this is repetitive, because I know the run of Reimer playing like 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 6, whatever it is now, started while I was away. So you guys have probably talked some about it already, maybe even a lot about it already. But what do you make, Paul, of them favoring Reimer over Luukkonen? It's not like they're striving for a playoff spot. And I might guess you want to get Luukkonen in a better headspace before the season ends, but then you've got the rest of the team maybe to consider. I don't know. Just what do you make of the choices that they've been making with Reimer carrying the load here?
Yeah, I don't get it, really. I've thought about it a lot. I just don't see a team in this situation. What are you doing with a 37-year-old goaltender that you're riding? I know he's earned it and all the rest of that. And if the Sabres were in a position right now of trying to make the playoffs and we're 4 points out, yeah, Reimer should start every game. Right now he gives them the best chance to win. I said, all right, so what are you doing? I think, I think Luukkonen should play as much as he can to try to find what he had last year on a consistent basis. And the only thing I can figure out is, Lindy Ruff also is doing something a little bit different. It's like trying to teach these guys. The way I put it to him is, are you trying to teach these guys how to win? Learn how to win. And he said, I look at it a little bit differently. I'm trying to teach these guys how not to lose. And that's, I think maybe that's why Reimer is in there. Teaching them how to put games away, and maybe if you don't have your best game, your goaltender helps you out and plays. And Reimer playing the way he's been playing certainly has given the team confidence that they can win hockey games. They're not. That game in Washington the other day, they would have lost that game 100 times out of 100 earlier in the year, because all of a sudden the Caps came roaring back in their building. Ovechkin scores. The place, they blow the roof off. The place just goes crazy. And then they get another one to make it 6-5. And they thought Ovechkin had scored that, but it wound up being tipped by Dubois. But still, the place was just absolutely bonkers. And it's the number one team in the league that you're playing in their building. And now it's 6-5. They would have lost that game every single time. And they responded. They came back and they scored a goal to quiet the crowd and put the game away. And that's not, that's what they've been doing more of lately. And I think, Reimer has been giving them, a lot of confidence. And now they didn't sit there and sit back and say, here they come. Oh no. That type of a thing. They just kept going forward and playing like they played earlier. They got the goal that they needed, and they wound up winning the hockey game.
Yeah. What do you think the plan will be moving into the summer and into next season, Paul? I mean, Luukkonen's only in year one of a lucrative contract. I don't think it's warranted at all, despite his struggles, to say like, okay, we're done here. I mean, they're pot committed on him at this point. So I would think they'd want to give him every opportunity. But you've got Levi, and there's a scenario where he could show up in the fall or late summer and win the job. and then Luukkonen's here, and I have no problem with that. The question is really, what do you do as insurance for that? Like, is there another version of Reimer out there that you can waive if you have to, because Levi and Luukkonen are going to be your NHL goalies? Maybe that goalie is actually Reimer at age 38 instead of 37. I don't know. I just wonder what they're going to do about the position. They've also got two guys that are graduating out of junior hockey, one from Europe and one from Western Canada, that are going to be Rochester bound or maybe ECHL bound, I suppose. They're turning pro. That's the point. They'll be available to play in Rochester if they want. So it's getting maybe kind of crowded, and nobody knows who the best guy is.
Yeah, they thought they did at the end of last year after, the 35 games he played, and whereas his numbers are right at the top of the league. They thought they had Luukkonen. And really, the contract is long-term, but it's only like $4.75 million.
Right.
It's not a huge amount of money as far as that goes. But now it's all – you're right. What do you do with this? You still – Levi has not proven he can play in the National Hockey League. They handed him the job twice. He wasn't able to grab it either time. Every time he comes up, he looks awful. And it's just like, all right, now does what he's doing, which now is the proper development in my mind. What he's done at the end of last year and this year was the way it should have gone a long time ago. And you were talking about that
before he signed, even. Yeah, right.
A long time ago.
2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all right, now they've done that. But can he now bring it to the National Hockey League? Here we are with the ifs again. Can Luukkonen become the goaltender he was at the end of last year? Here we are with the ifs again. So yeah, they have to have a plan B, and maybe it is Reimer. Reimer loves it here. He loves playing on this team. I think he'd be very willing to come back. So maybe you do bring him back, and if both those goaltenders come to training camp and show what they're capable of showing, and you got to waive them. Well,
so be it. Right.
Then you waive them, and so be it, and you move on. But you're right; it's very, very iffy right now, and I don't know what you do. But I don't think the answer is giving up on one of them either.
No, definitely not, in my opinion. As tough a season as Luukkonen has had, I don't know if he needs to reapply off-season training or what. I have no idea what's going on with him, but I just know he's looked sort of out of sorts, and it's not even just the goals. It's just positionally, he's just kind of all over the place, and that is kind of alarming.
It's a confidence problem, and when your goalie loses his confidence. You're seeing what happens. I just don't think he's confident in the net right now.
Paul Hamilton with us. Noah Ostlund?
Yes.
Ostlund. We'll start with that. We'll start there. On a bit of a tear in Rochester, and looks like he'll make his debut tomorrow.
Yeah, here's a guy who got hurt earlier. He had hand surgery, so he had missed some games. I think it's 21 games, if I remember correctly. And with Kozak possibly out for the rest of the NHL season, he's a hip strain. Lindy Rupp just said, look, we're running out of time here. He doesn't want to say out for the season because it sounds like he might be ready just about the time the season ends, but that would make him ready for the American Hockey League playoffs, which you would want him to play in. So Ostlund is getting his opportunity basically because he has just really gone crazy in the American Hockey League. I mean, this kid in March had 14 points in 11 games and was Rookie of the Month. And really, it seems like he scores every game now. Every time I'm watching the highlights down there, it seems like he's in the middle of everything and really has taken off. And you don't have to worry about his two-way game. Even in the preseason games he played in this year, he was always around the puck. It just seemed like he was always there. You talk about getting the puck back when you don't have it. This guy does that in spades. I mean, he really – and he said one of the reasons he stayed in Sweden for 2 years, and he had told any team that drafted him he was going to do that, was so he could learn the defensive game in playing pro hockey and learning the defensive game. He said in the Swedish Hockey League it's a very defensive league, and you learn that there, and he wanted to do that. So he kind of came with a little bit of knowledge with that, but still had to figure out the pro game in the American Hockey League. And I thought he did it pretty quickly, especially, since he was sidelined for all those games because of, having to have surgery on his hand, which is 100% now. But he really, as you talk about a player that has improved during a season, Noah Ostlund definitely has done that.
He was the same draft as Kulik, right? And he was even an earlier pick, I think, than Kulik. Not that it matters at this point. I mean, they're 3 years removed from their draft year, so development isn't always linear. But for what it's worth, as a prospect, he was thought of highly enough to be drafted ahead of Kulik, and we've all seen how Kulik looks. So that's nice. Was there also a third first-round pick this year?
Savoy.
Oh, Savoy. Okay, right. So he's gone.
Yeah,
I was thinking it was Wahlberg, but he was the year after, I think. So anyway.
Wahlberg's a second-round pick.
Right.
Ostlund, very early in the second round. Ostlund was part of the Eichel trade. Kulik was part of the Reinhart trade. And then Savoy was Buffalo's pick, the one that they used with their pick.
Nice.
So they had the 3 first-round picks in that draft.
Tough on Kozak. I know you like him. How do you think the Sabres see him for next season?
Exactly the way we saw him playing, and with Mallenstein. I don't know if it's Lafferty or somebody else, but that's a perfect role for him.
Full time.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But that's something you could see that. I could see that watching him in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference Finals against Mallenstein and the Hershey Bears, and Mallenstein played against him and remembered playing against him, in that series. And he just does anything to win a hockey game, and you could just tell then that I thought to myself, well, how did that guy last that long in the draft? And it was because he was injured. His draft year, he hardly played. I definitely, it's something you could see down the road, and it's really he's developed into it, and I definitely see him in that role.
Just to button everything up, did we hear that Norris skated on his own today?
Yep. Norris skated on his own. Lindy says, "Look, we hope that it's not done for the year." He goes, "We want to get both he and Greenway back before the year's over. They're both progressing. Norris skated today, and he just said we're still trying to get them both back in."
All right. And what about Greenway, by the way, for this? Is he going to be back?
That's he said both of them.
Oh, okay.
They're hoping to get them both back in. He didn't say Greenway was skating. He said Norris was, but he hasn't given up on getting either player back into the lineup before the season ends.
Very good. Sorry if I missed you saying that. Paul Hamilton on the Wester Hotline. Thank you, Paul.
No problem.
There you go. That's Paul, and his appearances are brought to you by Equitable Advisors, planning for your future is about more than just money. Let Equitable be your guide. And by Relax Honda. Relax, we got this.
We'll talk some more after a short break. Fairly recent, very high draft pick has signed with a new team. Free agent. See if you can guess who it is. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
More of Schopp and the Bulldog coming up, live from the Just Call Jed studio.
Trey Lance, third overall pick a few years back by the 49ers, later traded to Dallas. Didn't really get much time with Dallas. Played Week 18, was not re-signed. Signs with the Chargers. Maybe you out there are still holding on to Trey Lance in your Dynasty League, hoping. I was heavily invested. I think I'm all the way out at this point.
That's what I would recommend.
Being all the way out.
Getting all the way out on that. Yeah, that doesn't seem likely to work. But who knows? We've seen a few recent examples. Darnold last year, Geno Smith prior to him. Both
Baker.
Former Jets guys. Baker, of course, yeah. Although I don't think any of those three players were ever as far in the weeds as Lance. Like, Lance has just never really even gotten the chance with any of the teams he's been on. Whereas those guys, at least, like, Geno Smith was the starter. Darnold was the starter. Baker, same thing. Like, they kind of flamed out and then resurrected. I don't know. There hasn't been a flicker with Lance. He barely played in college and got drafted third, and then now has barely played. Like, so you go back to his college season. What has he played? Like 400 snaps in 6 years or something? Like, so it's got to be hardly nothing.
Yeah, right. Well, and he's behind Herbert, who has been very durable and, of course, is good in first place. So we'll see what kind of chance he gets there. We haven't talked about the draft at all, so let's do it here. I've seen a couple of mock drafts today with Emenwari mocked to the Bills at 30. Would they do it? With the corner need, with defensive tackle, would they do it? I mean, you could imagine they could like the player as much as anybody, the athlete. Would they do it? Would somebody have to be picked? Would it have to be like Grant, the defensive tackle from Michigan, and the corners?
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder how it would have to happen. It almost, well, this is this draft. We did talk a bit about this earlier, how flat it is in there, and I mentioned how I heard Greg Cosell, and I also heard him talking about Emenwari, and Steve asked him flat out, like, do you see any way, recognizing that you see him mocked to the Bills, regularly enough to make it a talking point? Steve asked, like, this guy's athletic profile, do you think there's any way he lasts that long? And Greg was like, I don't at all. Like, he can do it all. He's not one of these guys that's just a freaky athlete and you got to worry about whether you can find a position for him. Like, Cosell's like, anything you want. You want to play too deep? You want to play on the post? You want to play on the slot, in the slot? You want to have him be a big nickel, bring him up into the box on anything you want. He is capable of doing it. And the tape shows that. I trust Greg Cosell a lot. I'm sure he gets stuff wrong just like anyone can in that field. But I'd be stunned if he lasts that long. But if he does, I think I'd be mad if the Bills didn't pick him. It's my favorite idea and has been since we started. I don't like clinging to it because I just don't think it's that realistic for a variety of reasons. Maybe chief among them now being that he won't last that long. But they definitely have needs that are more urgent than another safety. But, man, I would love to see that dude on the Bills.
I don't have an argument here. My version of that is Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State, wide receiver. Our chat with Sam Panayotovich on the Final Four and more coming up next here on WGR.
Call or text WGR at 803-0550 or post on X at WGR550 and get connected to Schopp and the Bulldog now. Brought to you by Northtown Kia. Check out the 2025 Kia K4 sedan. Named finalist for the 2025 North American Car of the Year.
Folks, Bulldog here for FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and the best place to bet on sports. There's an absolutely loaded sports calendar this week, and whether you're into basketball, baseball, hockey, or any other sport, make sure you check out some of FanDuel's exclusive promotions like Dinger Tuesday, Hump Day parlays, and for the weekend, golf profit boost tokens. Like, I'm almost always down for a hockey parlay or live betting baseball games. Can be a lot of fun as well. However you want to approach it, just know that right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/Bulldog to make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner